roads and also starting to pond up on those main streets. So make sure that you're staying off the roads in this area. Over the last hour, and again, this is just within 1 hour, we're estimating 3 to 4 inches of rain over the west side of the Loop and Interstate 10. That's where we're having the toughest time right now, and we're seeing some pretty impressive images on our TransStar cameras and also getting some reports from some of our reporters out in the field. If you go along 288 and the southern portions of the Loop, that's another hot spot. Again, where you see the yellow, 3 to 4 inches of rain in just 1 hour, which is why we do have the flash flood warning in effect. In addition to that, the National Weather Service has issued a flash flood watch until 4 o'clock this afternoon. It includes Harris County, Chambers County, southern portions of Liberty County, and stretches off to the south and west. So Fort Bend, Brazoria, Galveston County, you're all included. And that means that conditions are prime for flash flooding to occur between now and about 4 o'clock in the afternoon. We haven't really seen a huge change in the timing of the storm system forecast-wise, but we're definitely seeing some pockets of extremely heavy rainfall and not a lot of movement, which is why we're now seeing flash flooding compared to the street flooding that we were picking up on about 2 hours ago. See how slow this movement is. This is an upper level low that is moving basically parallel to I-10, pushing out to the west. It's just going to continue to dump hours and hours of heavy rainfall. So the situation's not going to improve. Again, if you live in central portions of Harris County, you just can't get on the roads right now. But if you do live in Fort Bend County, Brazoria County, stretching into Galveston County, you want to monitor the situation very closely because additional warnings are possible between now and the later half of this afternoon. Let's take a look at our Futurecast model to give a sense of what we're expecting. Now that we're starting to see those heavy downpours really pick up, it is starting to stretch into the early half of the evening. It is still suggesting that we'll see some clear conditions tonight. So again, by the time we get to 8 and 9 o'clock, I think most of this is going to be behind us. But between now and 4 o'clock, it is going to be extremely busy. So again, I can't stress it enough. In central portions of Harris County, right over downtown, we do have a flash flood warning effect until noon. So we have another additional hour and 10 minutes. I wouldn't be surprised if it is extended, as the heavy rainfall is not going to be pushing out for hours. So we'll be back with another look at your forecast. But right now, let's go back to you, Sian and Amy.
All right. Thank you very much, Britta. We are tossing now to Kathy Hernandez. She is out on the roads checking on the locations. 288 and Southmore is where she is. A lot of construction in that area, flooding occurring now. Kathy, tell us what you're seeing.
Well, good morning. We just arrived here minutes ago on this scene because we know this is a high water spot. We've been getting a lot of calls. Look at it now. Just terrible to see. And as you said, this is a construction area, so a lot of dirt that was gathered here in the middle of Highway 288 has now mixed with water, and it is just flooded 288 here at Southmore, and these are going inbound. These are the inbound lanes. But if you look on the other side as well, outbound, the water is extremely high on that side, but they are not yet closed on that side, which is just a little bit of good news. But if you look further this way, all of that traffic on 288, some people excited, all of the traffic on 288 has actually been diverted, forced to exit and then come here. I'm actually surprised it's going a little faster than I thought, but that's because it doesn't look like there's a stoplight there because of this construction. But of course, you just want to make sure that you're aware of everything that's going on here. Again, guys, 288 right below me is shut down. These are the inbound lanes of 288 at Southmore, which are closed because of high water. And check it out as well. We have noticed the debris that is now gathering around the water, which could again cause more problems, because even once this water goes down, this debris will be left in the road. You can see pieces of wood, cups, other things that you can see just floating in the water here, and that will remain here. As we wait for this water to recede, we do know on the other side of this Southmore Bridge, or what was this Southmore Bridge, there are crews there. Emergency crews are forcing everyone to exit off the freeway. We will stay on top of this. I know a lot of rain is coming down all around parts of Houston, and we're going to keep you updated on this situation here. So I'll send it back to you guys.
All right, Kathy, live from 3rd Ward, inside the Loop, really being hit hard right now.
Yeah, and right now we want to take you to water rescue that's going on the Katy Freeway I-10 at Post Oak. You can see there, this looks like one of those areas where under an overpass where they always get high water, but you can see a car there in the water, and we're told this is a fire department vehicle actually trying to make a high water rescue. We're not sure they've they've already gotten someone out of that vehicle.
Right, we're not seeing a whole lot of movement right now, but hopefully they have already gotten them. If not, they're working on a plan to quickly rescue that person. But again, one of those areas that we do see flood in times like this.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, as Britta had said, we got about 3 inches in an hour inside the loop. We've got meteorologist Britta Merwin and Cambrell Marshall tracking these heavy rains right now from our weather center. We want to go over to Cambrell. A lot of our viewers have been sending in pictures of what you're seeing in your neighborhoods, and Cambrell's been taking a lot of those in just to keep track of what's going on. Cambrell.
What are you seeing, Cambrell?
Well, we've got a lot of information going on, and people have been coming into play here.
Hold on, he's got us. He's showing.
This
showing
is some
us
of the fireworks
right
show that people actually saw last night. The lightning taking over the skies as this severe weather started to roll in just about 8 o'clock last night. A lot of folks capturing these images of amazing lightning strikes in our area yesterday.
This is Charlie French from League City. He sent this in. Really lightning show. Look at this shot here. J.D. Flaherty from Houston, Cottage Grove. This is one of those areas, you know, a lot of these housing areas where you drive in one main driveway and you have all of the different driveways that you go into. This is an area here. We've been seeing rain amounts. Some areas have been reporting 3 to 4 inches. Britta was talking about that inside the loop area. 3 to 4 inches in some areas in an hour, and so that has been amazing in terms of the water that's falling down. Hempstead Highway also having some problems here. This just shows you how quickly, when you have this coming in, that really heavy downpour in a short period of time, and a lot of this is going to stay in the area for quite some time here. So as Britta has said, and all of the emergency responders have said, and emergency management, if you do not have to go anywhere, don't stay inside, don't move along here. Here's some video. It's rainy 4th. This is from Fields 08, and this is an area looking out inside the loop here. Heavy rainfall. Well, a lot of people have been seeing this throughout the area. The radar has been showing that the same thing is true with some water. We can see the emergency vehicle going through there. That's what's been happening here out there. That's one of the issues. Once you go out, you don't have to go out, and you get in trouble, they have to go out, and it becomes a dangerous situation for them as well. That's not the only video. Here's from Baytown. They're looking at the storm moving in over Baytown a while back, seeing all of the lightning going on in that area. That's what we are seeing throughout. 3 to 4 inches falling in some areas. I was on the Harris County flood control area looking just a few moments ago and seeing some of the rainfall rates of 1 to 2 inches in a half an hour. And that kind of jives with what we have been seeing throughout this heavy rainfall event that's been happening over the last hour and a half or so. We expect this to be around for some time to come. So stay inside. Do not go out if you don't have to go out. Okay?
Cambrell, thank you. A lot of people were making plans to go out to Freedom Over Texas tonight.
They said it will go on rain or shine. It happens much later tonight. Starts at 4, and we have Jake Reiner out there. He's been out there all morning as they're getting ready for this. So, Jake, what does it look like now in that area? Like that.
Wow. Looks terrible, guys. What else do you want? It's pouring down rain here at the main stage. I'll step out of the way so you can take a look. It is miserable. Not very many people setting up right now as it's pouring rain, and Buffalo Bayou is in the background there. The water has risen. It is starting to come onto the sidewalk here where the amphitheater is. And then if you look over to our left, Xavier, you can see this is the main stage, the Citgo main stage. There is nobody working on it right now, and just a few hours ago we saw some people setting up. So it's a lot of crews are trying to prepare for the worst here. I will say, unfortunately, a lot of people were telling us it was going to be fine. This is clearly not fine, and I'm not really sure how no one knew this was coming, or maybe we did. I don't know, but this is pretty terrible out here. We're going to continue to monitor the situation. Maybe make it down towards the bayou and show you what that's looking like right about now. Reporting live, I'm Jake Reiner, KPRC Channel 2 News.
Our meteorologists have definitely been predicting this the last couple of days, warning folks about this pending storm. And of course, we're going to have to be in touch with those organizers of Freedom Over Texas, because that looks so bad. The bayou is up a little bit.
And obviously they had said it would go on rain or shine because the event didn't start until 4. We are now under a flash flood watch until 4 p.m. So I think they're hoping it would clear out. But if that flooding, all that water stays, they'll have to reevaluate. We want to take you now to Chimney Rock, the Chimney Rock area. We have live pictures from here. And this is Chimney Rock where? Tell us again in our ear. near Star Road.
Okay. All right, so we see the line of cars there deciding that they don't want to go through the water. We have a truck making its way over the curb, the median there, to turn around, which is a good sign. If you don't have to be out on the roads, do not go out at this time, because you can see what the conditions are. Not good, very dangerous, and we want you to avoid getting stuck and then having to be rescued.
Yeah, so we've been told, Britta, we just checked just minutes ago, sort of the level on all of our bayous and waterways, and she said everything is within banks now. We've had some employees coming and going and said that, wow, White Oak Bayou looks really high. I-10 driving down it looks really treacherous and a lot of high water. Right now, all of our creeks and bayous, those waterways are within their banks. But right now you can see firefighters, emergency operations, rescuers trying to get to stranded drivers already out on our roadways. So hang tight, sit where you are, because we don't know how long this is going to last. We know that we're under a flash flood watch until 4 p.m. We want to go back over to Britta now, who is monitoring the situation. And does it still look like the heaviest downpours have been inside the loop?
Yeah, and I'm just checking in with our rainfall gauges across the area. And within the loop itself, just over the last 12 hours, what we've seen taking place since midnight, we have had 5 to 6 inches of rain just on the northeast side of the loop. That's a lot of rain in 12 hours, so there's no surprise why we're seeing that flash flood warning pop up in that location. Now, if you go outside of the loop, those rainfall totals drop off dramatically. Instead of 6 inches inside the west side of the loop, you hop 610, go on the other side, and we're talking 2 inches of rain in 12 hours. So again, these are isolated pockets where we're really seeing these very intense rainfall totals. We do have a flash flood warning in effect for Harris County until noon. This includes all of the loop, also hooks onto I-10 and the Southwest Freeway, pushing closer to Fort Bend County, along 288, where we have our Kathy Hernandez, who's been reporting on flooding south of the loop around 288, and then it hooks onto I-10 East, moving closer to eastern portions of Harris County. So if you live within the flash flood warned area, this is where we need you to stay home, stay off the roads. There's a huge difference between a flood advisory and a flash flood warning. A flash flood warning is the National Weather Service giving you the indication that this amount of rainfall could cause damage to property, and if it continues, it can be life-threatening. In this area, any area that is low-lying, the underpasses, you want to stay away from them and you want to stay off the roads, because we just want to keep everyone safe at home. Let's talk about how much rain that we've seen, and this really highlights the two spots that we're seeing the largest problems. It's going to be the west side of the loop and also the south part of the loop, closer to NRG Park, where we have had reports of flooding since 10 o'clock this morning. We have had 3 to 4 inches of rain in 1 hour. That is what our radar is estimating. A rainfall rate of 3 to 4 inches per hour is an extraordinary amount of rain. You're taking a live look at the Southwest Freeway, at Buffalo Speedway, and you can see that the feeder roads are really having a rough time with this heavy rainfall. Right now on Exact Track radar, we're tracking that heavy rainfall basically on the border of Harris County and Montgomery County down to the coast. So if you're joining us from our north counties, the northwest counties, and wondering what's going on, it's just not a deal for you. This is really Harris County and to our coastal counties that is being slammed by very, very heavy rainfall right now. And this is going to be continuing, at least for the next several hours. I want to go back and just readdress what we're seeing with that flash flood warning, because this is very important. Again, if you do live within the loop, stretching along I-10 out to the west, close to Highway 6, extending down 288, and even up into the North Freeway, you need to stay off the roads. Uptown, West U, it's just not safe, especially those low-lying areas and the underpasses. That's where we're going to see the worst street flooding, and a flash flood warning is definitely giving you that indication that we're picking up 3 to 4 inches of rain per hour, and you need to make sure that you're staying off the roadways. There's a look at those rainfall rates again. In 1 hour, 3 to 4 inches of rain between Uptown, West U, moving into Meyerland, NRG Park, and now extending out to the east, almost over to Mayfair. So you need to make sure that you're watching this forecast very closely. Right now, we only have one flash flood warning, but we have a flash flood watch until 4 o'clock this afternoon. It is only 11 o'clock in the morning. We have 5 hours of heavy pockets of rain rainfall that could cause flash flooding at any point. So it's important that if you are not under that flash flood warning in Harris County, that you're listening to the forecast and the weather conditions very closely, because we could see warnings pop up anywhere between Fort Bend County and Chambers County between now and about 4 p.m. We are expecting this heavy rainfall to be lasting for the next several hours. In fact, I do not see a break happening until we get closer to dinner time. So this is a long stretch of time. We're going to continue to see, roadways having a tough time, and also seeing not only that feeder flooding, but we could see some street flooding and urban flooding. I do want to bring up our Futurecast model. I've seen a few changes on it over the last hour, so it's not really picking up on this exactly correctly. This is what sensing is happening right now. Obviously missing out on a ton of rain on the west side of Harris County. So we're going to take it with a grain of salt. But the story that's been telling all day long is that we would see some clearing as we go into the evening forecast. We're definitely going to see more rain than what this Futurecast model is pumping out, but it's still showing that clearing as we get closer to 9 o'clock. So again, the message is to stay where you are. Make sure you're watching those weather conditions very closely. If you are joining us from the north counties or northwest counties, this is not really a huge issue for you, but a huge deal for the metro area, and everybody just needs to stay safe and stay where you are. We'll continue to track that flash flood warning all the way through noon, but as of right now, I wouldn't be surprised if it gets extended, because I'm just not seeing a break in this weather pattern until we get into the later half of the afternoon. All
right, a long day ahead, Britta. Thank you. I want to go now to our Lee Ferlisi. She is traveling the Channel 2 storm tracker along 59 and 610. And Lee, what's it like out there?
Well, we're seeing a lot of backup right now. So we just went by the exit at Southwest Freeway and Wesleyan. Right now, we're going by the exit for Southwest Freeway. I'm going to switch the camera for you so you can see it. Southwest Freeway and Edlow and Buffalo Speedway. There is a car over here, actually a pickup truck, that's going through high water. The feeder roads look like they are a river right now in this area. The pickup truck was able to get through, but there are a line of cars on the highway waiting outside the exit who look like they just don't want to make the trip down. There's a complete backup on the exit for Edlow, Buffalo Speedway, and also for Wesleyan. The cars were backed up onto the highway because the feeder right now looks like a river. I don't know if you can see it here. We're following this pickup truck who seems to be okay right now and has come out of that pooling water. But on some of these feeder roads, especially along 59, the water's getting high. Can you see what right there, that white pickup truck is kicking up a lot of water? They just came out of another area that was pooling right now. We're approaching the Kirby Drive exit, and if you can see in front of me, there's a lot of red lights, people stopping. My guess is that exit is not great either. It's total backup in the 2 lanes to the right-hand side of the highway on the northbound side of 59. If you're in the left-hand lanes, that traffic seems to be moving up ahead. As far as I can see, they seem to be moving along. People have definitely backed off on the speed because of the rain. It's coming down at a pretty good clip. What are you seeing over here, Byron? Some people are going the wrong way. Is that what you're seeing?
All right, Lee, thank you very much. And of course, we're keeping a very close eye. I've been following Jeff Lindner on Twitter from the Harris County Flood Control District, updating the situation on the bayous. He says close to 6 inches of rain is what we're approaching in the downtown area right now.
Right, and it continues because we know we're under a flash flood watch until 4 p.m. in this area. As Britta said earlier, she wouldn't be surprised if that were extended to later in the day. We were expecting rain. I'm not sure if we were expecting this much, or right, Britta, the problem is when we get this much so quickly in such a short amount of time.
Yes, and the question is, where's the bullseye going to be? If you were watching the morning show with us this morning, we said that there could be an isolated 6+ inches. Unfortunately, that isolated 6+ inches is now over downtown. And that's why everyone always has to be on guard when we have heavy rain in Houston, because it can change so quickly. So again, we're seeing that max rainfall. It's just very unfortunate that it's happening right over downtown. Would have been a little more convenient if it could have been offshore. We do have the flash flood warning in effect until noon for Harris County. That's where we have had almost 6 inches of rain on the west side of the loop. The south side of the loop, we're approaching over 4 inches of rain, and this is in a 12-hour period. The National Weather Service has issued a flash flood watch until 4 p.m., and we are not expecting a large change in the weather pattern until after that point. So again, we're expecting the possibility of more additional flood warnings. I will let you know that there's a stark drop-off in rainfall totals between what's happening inside the loop and what's happening outside of the loop. Outside of the loop, we're about 2 to 3 inches of rain in the last 12 hours. A totally different story than 6 inches of rain. I have checked our channel status. Right now, we're still looking really good. Everything is still in bank. The issue that we're seeing right now is street flooding. Also, those very, very dangerous underpasses. We all know the ones that have issues downtown. Those are what we are seeing flooding. So if you are inside the loop, along the loop itself, you need to make sure that you are staying off the roads. It is not safe to be outside. I do want to give you a little radar tour to let you see what we're seeing across the area. We are seeing the very heavy rainfall really in Harris County itself. You can tell within the loop and within the Beltway, you can see those bright reds. And again, we're not expecting a large change between now and about 2 o'clock in the afternoon. I think by the time we get to the later half of the afternoon, we'll see some clearing, but it's going to be very, very busy. This is an upper level low that's very slow moving. So until the low gets out of here, we're not going to see some large improvements. I do want to take you into our coastal counties, which is where we were expecting to have some of those heavier rainfall totals. And we are seeing some pretty hefty rainfalls. I take you into Galveston County and also into Chambers County. That's where we have seen, about 1 to 3 inches of rain along the Gulf Freeway into the southeast side of Harris County. So again, there's a very stark drop off between what we're seeing within the loop and what we're seeing outside of the loop. I do want to address what's going on across southeast Texas in general, because again, this is a huge deal for the metro area in Harris County, but a very different scenario for our north counties and our northwest counties. That's where the rain is just now starting to pick up. I don't think we're going to see as heavy rainfall totals for our northwest counties, for Walker County, for Montgomery County, and North Liberty County as what we're seeing in the metro area. We do have that flash flood watch, which is really centered around the metro area, extending out to Chambers County, Fort Bend County, and Brazoria County. Where you see the highlighted areas in green, that's where we have the largest risk of seeing additional flash flooding over the next several hours. But again, I can't stress it enough that we have 5 hours of heavy rainfall ahead of us. We're probably going to see some more flash flood warnings pop up. So if you live in the metro area, make sure you have a way to get warnings, stay off the roads, and stay put where you are. If you're with friends and family, just stay with them, because we are not going to see improvements in the current weather conditions for several hours. The flash flood warning is specifically for Harris County. It does include all of downtown, uptown, also West U, moving along the Gulf Freeway, and also 288. If you are in the flash flood warned area, stay off the roads.
All right, Britta, thank you very much.
And a lot of these instances, it is so dangerous.
All right, guys, we want to get a check on the roadways real quick. Just joining you really quickly to give you a look at the Katy Freeway, I-10. This is outbound and inbound at Washington. As you can see, there's water here in most of the main lanes. We have a big rig stuck right there on the side of the road. So as you can tell, we're having some major problems on our freeways. Our TransStar cameras are giving us a look at some of these conditions right now. And just a little while ago, we saw some of these emergency vehicles kind of step in and take charge here. Cars were trying to get through, and they were having a difficult time. So fortunately, they've been able to intervene, and a lot of people are stuck out on the freeway. So we're seeing a lot of problems on the Katy Freeway, both inbound and outbound, a lot of high water spots in both directions. Alternate routes are a little bit tricky right now since Memorial is taking on some water. So keep that in mind. We're going to keep checking these TransStar cameras as we get a chance to do that, of having some problems flipping them over. So we're going to send it back to you at the desk.
We can definitely get a look at just the problems that this heavy rain is causing. And the Harris County Flood Control, like Britta, has been updating us on the Bayou situation. Many things still in bank, but they're reporting right now, for example, rapid rise, they say, at Willow Waterhole in Westbury, may be near bank full. Also, Brickhouse Gully is rising rapidly, and they say more heavy rainfall headed for that area. Also taking a close look, of course, at Halls Bayou near I-45, near top of bank.
And straight from the gentleman who made those posts, keeping us informed, is Jeff Lindner with the Harris County Flood Control District on the phone with us. So Jeff, I mean, a lot of rain covering a lot of area, and we know you're always on top of this. What can we expect?
Yeah, unfortunately this morning we've seen some very heavy rainfall in the last 3 hours on the west side of downtown Houston, really between downtown west to west of the 610 loop out towards the Beltway. And we've had almost 7 inches now in the last 3 hours at TransStar, which is at 610 and I-10 on the west side. That is resulting in very significant street flooding. So we are advising people across central Harris County to avoid travel this time. Stay where you're at. Do not get into high water. And the second thing is we are watching the creeks and bayous respond responding to this rainfall. Right now, all the creeks and bayous are within their banks, but we do have a couple locations where the water is getting very high, specifically on Willow Waterhole in the Westbury area. It's about 2 feet below bank full. Very heavy rain continuing in that area, so the water is going to be coming up, probably getting close to bank full in that area. Brays Bayou in the Meyerland area is rising, about half full right now. Going to continue to watch that very closely. And then Buffalo Bayou inside or east of 610 down through downtown Houston. Bayou is within its banks, but that is the area that's been hit very, very hard, and that bayou is going to be responding and rising through the afternoon hours. Right now, not really expecting that particular watershed to maybe get out of banks, but it is going to put a lot of water down into that area inside the 610 loop. And then also Brickhouse Gully, a tributary to White Oak Bayou up around 290 and the North 610 loop area, watching that very carefully too. And we're going to have to watch as this kind of rain expands very slowly out to the west, because that's going to force the heavy rainfall kind of westward, which is the direction which a lot of these watersheds drain. So we're going to be dropping heavy rainfall on the middle and upper ends of these watersheds, and then that water is going to move down the watershed. So this is something we're going to be dealing with for the next several hours. And we need people to be paying attention to the bayous and creeks and the rising water.
Absolutely. We could see from our live camera over at Eleanor Tinsley Park the water coming up there in that area, and that's Buffalo Bayou, right? And you said that is within banks, but that's another one that was just right there when the rain settled over downtown for a little bit.
Yeah, it's definitely within its banks. Of course, that's where we had the almost 7 inches now in 3 hours just upstream of that location there at Eleanor Tinsley Park. And so we do expect that water is going to rise quite a bit here over the next few hours into the afternoon hours. So there could be some issues down there with the festivities planned for this afternoon and this evening. So we need to be paying attention to that. And then really anywhere along and west of I-45 all the way out to the West Belt, that is the area that's been hit really hard this morning, and we are seeing those creeks and bayous responding. So we're asking people first to avoid travel. If at all possible, stay where you're at. We have a lot of issues with the roadways and the high water right now on the roadways. And then second, pay attention to the creeks and bayous. They are rising. Make sure you're paying attention to that. You can monitor them at our website at harriscountyfws.org.
And Jeff, if you had a recommendation to make to the folks at Texas, Freedom Over Texas, about what to do tonight, what would you tell them?
Yeah, we've been coordinating with the city of Houston, with the Office of Emergency Management, so they're doing their stuff right now to make sure that they're elevating the materials they have down there in the channel, and we're keeping a close eye on that bayou and working with them very closely to try to avoid any damages down there.
All right, thank you so much for keeping us informed, and we'd like to check back with you, I'm sure, throughout the day today. Thank you, Jeff.
I want to take you now to our Robert Arnold. He is tracking the situation along Braeswood in the Meyerland area, and we see that rushing water over the streets there. Wow. Or, excuse me.
Actually, we're on Bel Air at the 610 loop, and yes, the streets are filling up quickly. Right now, this is passable, but if we get much more rain in this area, that's going to change quickly. We've already seen some of the cars that go through. Some of your taller cars are making through, but now look, down there, if we can look back there, Renee, down there, see how deep the water is? If you can see that white car going through, the water is getting very deep. And again, we are at Bel Air and the Loop right now. Basically, if there is any kind of dip in the road, you're going to have this very deep ponding through here. Let me give you a little bit of a route how we came here. Our station is off the Southwest Freeway in between Beech Nut and South Gessner. We came the back way to get to the city of Bel Air, and practically every street we were on had some level of ponding on it. So it is very dangerous out here right now. And the other thing you really want to be careful for, that car is going through slowly. If you're going through some of these deep spots, do not go quickly through there. You don't want to take a chance on anything getting sucked up in your engine and you're going to stall out. Plus, you also have larger cars that will go by you faster and also push some of that water up onto your car, which again increases the chances of you sucking some of this water up into the engine. The best thing to do right now is just not really be on the road. Unless it is mission critical for you to get out today, I would just stay put until this rain passes through the area, because we have noticed probably with just in the last few minutes, this water has only gotten deeper, and I'm sure you are seeing the raindrops hitting, so the rain's not stopping, which means this is going to keep filling up. We've seen some people smart enough to try and pull off, get into a parking lot. There's a bank by us. A lot of people are now starting to pull in just to take a minute, let this water try to recede, let the rain try and pass before they get back out on the road. Matter of fact, I'm noticing that car Yep, that one that passed us earlier is not even going to try and go through that intersection because it is getting deeper. If you're looking here at the light on the feeder road of the West Loop South, if you turn right, that's when it starts to get really deep. And a matter of fact, Renee, if we can kind of try and walk down that way, let's see if we can get a peek behind that bank building and see just how deep it is, because some cars are not willing to make that take that chance rather. So again, Bel Air at the West Loop South. Water is ponding up. We're seeing some bubbling come up from some of the storm drains too, which means this water is not going to be able to drain for quite a while. And as long as the rain keeps up, it's only going to get deeper through this area. So bear with me. We appreciate you taking the time to walk with us here, but I just want to get a peek around this this office building here to see how deep it is on the feeder road, since several cars have kind of headed to the intersection and then decided to stop and not take that chance. Oh yeah, it's definitely getting deep. I see one car. Looks like they're either, I don't think they're flooded out. I see brake lights on, but you can see that yellow Charger over there. Let's see. Yeah, it's getting very deep. You can't even see where the sidewalk is anymore through here. So, yeah, I'm gonna kind of step a little carefully as I go through here so I don't step off the end of the sidewalk and fall. But yeah, it's getting deep. The other thing is too, you've got some construction there. Be careful. The sidewalk ends right here. I'm standing on grass, Renee. Don't trip. So as I make my way down, we try and come through. We've got this heavy truck coming through, live fish. He can make it, but look how high that water is up on his wheels, and he is much higher off the ground than your average car, even some of your pickups. Okay, come this way. There's a step down right here. I got you. I got you. I got you. It's okay. Step, step, step. There you go. Okay. There you go. You okay? Yeah. Okay. All right. So if you look now, we're now on the road. Water's about up to my knees here. Again, intersection of Bel Air and West Loop South. Look, it's even a little dicey for that Metro bus going through. Now you've got another higher car right there. You've got some people pulling under the underpass to make sure that they hopefully stay out of this water. Don't try it. Again, I know it gets repeated over and over again, but it is so true. Just turn around, don't drown. The water can get deep fast, catch you off guard. You've got construction in this area too. That's going to hamper things too, because you have a lot of dips and divots through here. So please be very careful when you're out on the road today. And again, unless it's mission critical, do not go out today until this rain passes. Reporting live from Bel Air, Robert Arnold, KPRC Channel 2 News.
Robert, thank you. We saw that Metro bus go by, Amy, and Metro actually just issued an alert. They just tweeted that Metro services have been, of course, drastically affected due to the rain and the flash flooding. They say the Metro Rail red line has now officially been suspended. Purple and green lines delayed. And again, as everyone's been saying this morning, only travel if necessary, and of course, allow for extra time if you do have to go out.
Absolutely. Certainly not how anybody expected to spend their 4th of July. But if there is any good news out of all this, it's that a lot of people didn't have to be at work today. So stay inside, stay where you are. I think we want to go over to Britta now and check in. She was just telling us a good reminder that it takes 2 feet of water to move a vehicle.
Only 2 feet of moving water will actually move a sedan. So, you know, when we start seeing water reaching up to Robert's knees, that's a big concern. And that's why we're trying to get the message out that we want everyone to just stay where they're at. If you had a party that you're trying to get to, it's just not worth it. You don't know what you're going to get yourself into. The hardest hit area, definitely the west side of the loop. We took to Jeff Linder, and over at Transtar, they've picked up almost 7 inches of rain, most of that in the last 6 hours. That's an extraordinary amount of water, and that's why we're seeing some pretty big street flooding concerns. One area that they are watching at flood control is the Willow Water Hole. This is going to be on the southwest side of town. Definitely a very hard hit area. They only have about 1.5 feet to go until they're at the top of bank. Right now, all of our waterways are still within bank, but we have a few areas that are starting to really stack up. Also, a few other things to push along to you. The underpass at Washington Avenue and the Katy Freeway is now impassable due to high water. So again, underpass at Washington Avenue at Katy Freeway is now impassable due to high water. So we can't stress enough that we need you to stay off the roads. We do have a flash flood warning in effect for Harris County. It's for all of downtown, stretching along I-10 out to the west, also to the east. Cuts off around Jacinto City on the east side, and then it cuts off just before you reach Pearland along 288 down to the south. So if you live in this area, you need to make sure that you are staying away from low-lying locations. You're staying inside your house because we're seeing significant street flooding. Right now, there's no threat of water getting into into homes. This is a street flooding situation, which can be life-threatening if you get yourself caught on the road in your car in too much water. So we really want you to stay where you are and stay safe. Now, we do have a flash flood watch that has been posted. This is going to be in effect until 4 p.m. It includes Harris County, Chambers County, Brazoria County, and Galveston County, and Fort Bend County until 4 o'clock. And we are not seeing a change in the weather pattern until we get into the later half of this afternoon. So we're looking at least 4 to 5 hours of these conditions to be continuing. The good news is we are starting to see a little push out to the west, but as Jeff Linder pointed out from the Harris County Flood Control, anything that falls out here has to drain through our system. We are expecting Buffalo Bayou to continue to rise. They're expecting it to stay in bank, but it is going to be very high. And of course, everybody's watching it very closely. So I don't want your anxiety to get the best of you. That is going to be an area that you're going to see the water moving very fast and very high. We could see additional flash flood warnings pop up, especially in the watched area, as we're expecting heavy rainfall to continue to fall down. But I am encouraged to see that we're seeing a little bit of movement out to the west, because then that will give some relief to some really hard hit areas. The hardest hit areas right now, definitely on the west side of the loop and then on the south part of the loop. This is an hourly rainfall rate. Again, how much rain we've picked up in only 1 hour. Along the west side of the loop, down on the south side, 3 to 4 inches of rain in 1 hour. Usually we would see some minor street flooding with 1 to 2 inches of rain per hour. So if you double that, you can get the image in your mind. It puts us in this place where you're seeing the images where Robert is, close to Bel Air, in Bel Air, where you have water up to your knees in some of the streets. So definitely a very serious situation. We're also seeing some of those rainfall rates pick up on the northwest side. In fact, we had some reports here on the northwest side where the water is rising up to curb level in Copperfield and also Copper Grove subdivisions. So keep your eye on it. You need to make sure that you're watching the weather conditions very closely. Right now, the largest concern is the large amount of street flooding that we're seeing within Harris County. We just want to make sure that people are staying home and staying off the roads, because that's where we're seeing the very, very heavy rainfall, and we're expecting these conditions to be continuing for several hours. So again, just stay home, hunker down. Right now, all of our waterways are still within bank, and we're keeping a very close eye on it.
All right, Britta, thank you. We know that HFD has been very busy today with a lot of high water rescues in our area. We want to go to the phones now. We have Assistant Chief HFD Fire Chief Rui Lozano on the phone with us to update us on how things are going, what your crews are seeing out there, and how bad it is.
Well, currently, most of the flooding's been roadway flooding and on the underpasses. We've already responded to over 30 calls for assistance due to flooding, and we're currently monitoring the system closely. We've started looking to consider calling some crews in just as standby if additional staffing will be required. But we're monitoring well, and we're responding well. And we have our assets in place. We have our high water vehicles, our evacuation boats, our rescue boats. So right now, HFD is prepared, and we're already making those calls.
Have you all had to close any? Like right now we're looking at the Katy Freeway at Post Oak, where it always gets high under that underpass, and people should be looking at those markers to see how high the water is. But have you had to close any roadways yet?
I'm sorry, can you repeat that? I can hardly hear you.
Have you had to close off any roadways to keep people from going?
Well, a lot of the
water?
roadways have had to be closed off, especially on the underpass. Look in the Post Oak area, you're seeing those underpasses that are, way too high to be trying to drive through. So we're trying to ask all the citizens to stay at home. Certainly don't try to judge the depths of those high waters, especially on the underpasses, because you will be stranded. It's just it's a dangerous risk. It shouldn't be taken. We're encouraging everyone to stay home because we're responding.
And of those high water rescues, 30 already this morning. I mean, can you tell us about those? I mean, were they all successful rescues, obviously? Were there, people who were able to call 911 or just firefighters out and seeing that these vehicles?
So far, we have no reports of any injuries or fatalities. All rescues have been accomplished. We've been responding well. We have plenty of assets on the streets, but we're monitoring closely and we're taking the calls, and call volume is escalating quickly.
And of course, we know that the roads have been filled with HFD vehicles as well, working crashes as well. How have you guys been handling those?
Well, that's kind of part of the job when it comes to flooding. There's so many crashes and things that occur. People get stranded. The roads are becoming slick. That's why we're asking all our citizens to just stay at home.
Have you, when you talk about those 30 high water rescues, have they been saturated or clustered in one area over another?
I can barely hear you again.
That's okay. Those high water rescues, have they been predominantly in one area of the city or just all over?
Right now we're seeing it in the I-10 Katy area and in the Post Oak area. Those seem to be our our highest call areas. But, you know, we know the areas that historically flood. That's where we try to place our assets. But definitely you need to avoid the area around Katy Freeway, I-10, and the Post Oak area. We're seeing a lot of strong flash floods and impassable roadways.
And that is where we had live images of one of those rescues underway just a short time ago.
Right.
Yes, and, you know, we're super proud that we were able to have those assets in place and be prepared to respond, and we're looking to call additional staffing if needed.
All right. Thank you so much, Assistant Chief Lozano, for filling us in this morning. We appreciate it.
All right, we'll head back out to Eleanor Tinsley Park now. Our Ryan Korsgaard is on the scene. They're keeping a close eye on the bayou out there. Filling up.
I'll tell you what, we've been here just a short amount of time. I'm now standing in water. I can't call this dry pavement a few minutes ago, but we're in water now. Let me show you, this is the Buffalo Bayou right behind me. That is looking in the direction of Shepherd. That is the area that Jeff Linder had been talking about. And this water is coming up quickly into the park. Let's kind of pan around and we can show you. You can see some of the debris that's now moving downstream here in the Buffalo Bayou. To give you an idea, this is near the skate park at Sabine, but that gives you an idea of where we are. You can see downtown from here barely. Just a little bit to the right, you can see they have been working to set up everything for the fireworks display. Of course, all the vendors as well. We've seen some of the vendors, including in that pickup right there, trying to move some of their equipment out of the way to make sure that none of it gets into trouble. In fact, we were talking to one of the truck drivers a short time ago. He said that they made the decision to pull one of their trucks out of this area just to be sure. But as Jeff Linder was telling us a short time ago, this area is going to see more water, is going to see more, not necessarily just the rain, but the flooding that's coming downstream from upstream from the 610 area to the west. So water coming up here quickly, and we've been kind of watching. We have a mark over here behind us, and we've been watching the water rise, and the pole that we were using kind of as our hallmark, it will be underwater before long as that water is making its way into Buffalo Bayou downstream, and then in this direction back here towards the Houston Ship Channel. But you can see some of the workers back here by that pavilion trying to decide what to do. We've seen them moving some of the sandbags. We've also seen them moving some of the electrical outlets and some of the cabling that they had from some of the generators down here for some of the vendors, and disconnecting those and moving those upstream, or I should say up the hill as well. They have a long way to go before this would come anywhere near the stage, but it is certainly coming close to this outer perimeter fence that's been set up, of course, for the fireworks here tonight. But you can imagine the workers coming down here to check this as this water is rising. Sadly, we've seen this for this 4th of July celebration before. You might remember a few years ago they had to shoot off fireworks earlier today, talking to the city of Houston, telling Channel 2 News that they believe this is going to clear and everything's going to be just fine. But keep in mind, as Jeff Linder has indicated, we're definitely going to see more flood water here in this area, certainly before it goes down. And if you take a look, David, back behind us, you can see some of that debris that is now washing downstream in the Buffalo Bayou. A lot of those tributaries getting cleaned out once again, and the water back up into the trees is something I cannot recall I've seen certainly in the last 9 months or so since Harvey. Not rainfall quite like this, but of course this area is designed to flood. That's the reason this park is designed the way it is, so they can basically clean it out and reopen for business. But it will take a bit of time today before this stops. Guys, back to you.
All right, Ryan, thank you so much.
Well, we have crews spread out all over our area, but we've also been able to keep an eye on what's going on in other parts of the Houston and the greater Houston area by our Click-2 pins. Cambrell Marshall has been monitoring those as they come into our newsroom. Cambrell, what are you seeing?
We're seeing exactly what Jeff Linder was talking about. When you see the results of all that rain in a short period of time, we have some rising waters here. There's some of the Click-2 pins here. I showed this to you earlier. This is Hempstead Highway under a lot of water here. Here's one here that's from Rainy 4th. This is an area that's just inside the loop here, where you can see off in the distance there, very, very heavy rainfall there. Here's a shot, San Felipe and 610, between 610 and the Post Oak. You see the bus is having some issues there. When you see very high water like that, that lets you know you need to not go out. You can see water up on these cars that are trying to get through here. That's an example of some of the high water that's going on there. The bus is stopped there in the middle as well, figuring, okay, which way do I go? That's an example of why you don't want to go out in this kind of weather here. We have others Here's a shot showing the Buffalo Bayou, downtown Houston, and Market Square Park. Very swift current here in this area where the old post office is down here. He tilts up and goes off where the Interstate 10 goes from east to west. Very nice camera work there, but that really shows that really high water rising very quickly on the Buffalo Bayou. In the backyard here, this is in Humble, said there were over 6 inches since this morning in their backyard where they had a lot of heavy rainfall. And at the same time, some folks just don't mind. These puppies are out there this is Levy Park, and they like water. There's a lot of water running through Levy Park here, however. This is an example of some of the water that's falling all around downtown. And look where the cars are in the streets. You can see where let me see, can I stop that? Because you could actually see where the cars off in the distance. You could see the water rising right there in the distance there. So you could see that in that area there near Levy Park, you can definitely see that there's some high water issues there along the highways. There are some of the residential areas where, I don't know if you know where that Midtown area is, where you can see the apartment complexes in that area. That is an example why you want to stay inside as much as you possibly can over the next several hours. The last time we heard that the flood warning was in place until noon, we're sure that that's going to be extended at some point, as Jeff was talking about the heavy rain moving off to the west. And we've got a lot of moisture still coming in. The area of low pressure that's resulting in all of this is anchored right off the Gulf. And so a lot of that moisture is still coming in. So stay inside if you don't have to be outside. Guys?
Cambrell, thank you. And we're getting reports from local law enforcement showing that it's expanding beyond the loop in terms of this problem of flooded roads. Precinct 4, Constable Mark Herman just putting out some flooded roadways in Precinct 4, including Cypresswood Drive at Dry Spring Lane, also the feeder of the North Freeway between Ritchie and Airtex, North Vista at North Meadow at Imperial Valley, and also reporting North Spring and Cypresswood Drive areas that are flooded right now.
Yeah, we're talking pretty far north and northwest in Harris County, so that is definitely not just inside the loop. Everybody keeping an eye on this. We had somebody on Facebook ask, can we ask where it's expected to go next? I mean, it's sort of over this one area. We did hear Jeff Lindner talk about west, right, Britta? I don't know if we have your mic on, but I mean.
Yes. The upper level low itself is pushing out to the west. It's following the path that we expected it to move, but until it gets out of here, this is what we're going to see. The good news is if you take a look at the last hour on this radar loop, you can tell that it is slowly moving out to the west. But as Jeff pointed out, anything that falls to the west still has to drain through our system. Yeah, and isolated spots specifically on the west side of the loop are approaching 6 to 7 inches of rain in the last 12 hours. So if you get heavy rainfall off to the north and west and it moves down Buffalo Bayou, it is going to be continuing to rise and flowing fairly fast. They're expecting it to stay in bank, but for everyone that lives along the bayou, and especially considering what we've been through over the last year, it's going to have anxiety very high. So do not be caught off guard. If you live along Buffalo Bayou, you are going to see it rise. You are going to see it coming in very fast, especially with how much rainfall we're expecting to be filtering down the system.
But with it moving west, and we're under this watch until 4 p.m. I know no one has a crystal ball, but so the idea is that it just moves. It's just moving very slowly over that time until it moves past our area?
Yes, exactly. And a lot of our computer models have been showing it clearing out between 7 and about 9 o'clock tonight, east to west. So the farther you live off to the east, the sooner you're going to see the improvements. So by dinner time, I think east of Interstate 45, we'll start to see some improvements. And by the time we get to 9 o'clock, a lot of areas will still be able to do fireworks. But the question is, are people going to be able to get out after all this? Because this is going to be our afternoon story. It is going to take the entire afternoon to get through this. And we're going to see some pockets of very heavy rainfall that prompt these flood warnings. So again, the only one that we're tracking right now is the flood warning that is directly over downtown, and that's in place for the next 24 minutes until noon. And then we'll keep the flash flood watch in effect until 4 because that bullseye is going to be changing.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of these fireworks and celebrations, people are standing out on the lawn watching fireworks. So even if it clears out by dinner time and they have them going on, I mean, who's going to want to go out in that? So that's talking about inconveniences. Now we want to talk about safety, and that's why we're here sort of tracking all of this rain that's happening now.
And we have Lee Ferlisi, who is on the roads for us right now. She's at 59 and the Spur, tracking the weather and any flooding that you're seeing out there, Lee.
Well, we're on the southbound side of the Southwest Freeway, and it is a mess. We're looking at what could be an accident up in front of us at Shepherd. I'm going to switch the camera for you so you can see what's in front of us right now. You see that the cars have just come to a standstill, and we have been watching people just flip around, head the wrong way on 59 to head down the entrance. They're trying to get off the entrance way of the spur to just get off the highway and get out of this mess. We see a bunch of cars in front of us taking shelter under the overpass, and then up ahead do you see a red pickup truck is now going to probably back up, and they've been making their way down the entrance to get off 59 over here and just get out of this traffic that has come to an absolute standstill up ahead. We were heading northbound on 59 earlier, and exit after exit we saw the same story. There is water on the feeders. We saw a pickup truck that was stalled out. We saw a second car that was stalled out along the feeder because the water is rising along the feeder roads, and then the cars are just backed up off the exits because nobody wants to chance it and go through that high water along the feeder roads. So if you don't have to be on the highway, especially 59 where we're driving right now, from about the 610 interchange up to the spur, I would not do it. If you have alternate routes, use them, or just don't be on the road at all right now, because we're watching a lot of traffic jams. You're going to have a hard time getting where you need to go along this section of 59. That's what's happening for us right here. We're live along the southbound side of the Southwest Freeway and the spur. We're actually hearing an emergency vehicle coming by us. You're probably going to see it come into view in just a second. We've been seeing fire trucks. We just heard the sirens of an emergency vehicle that's coming up right now and should be passing us in just a moment. My guess is they're going up to whatever's happening at 59 and Shepherd. Maybe Jen can shed some light on that for us as we're sitting here. But that's the very latest along the Southwest Freeway. Back to you in the studio.
All right, we see folks very carefully navigating their way off that mess out there.
Yeah, absolutely. And we've got Sarah Doncha keeping a bird's eye view of all of this through our TransStar cameras. And what are you seeing now looking at all of those?
Ladies, take a look at this shot. This is just really incredible here. I'm going to step slightly out of the way here. This is the Katy Freeway at Post Oak. As you know, in the Galleria area, there are a lot of underpasses with flood gauges on the side. And this is why we saw a driver rescued from this vehicle just a little while ago. And unfortunately, even though we know and we tell you repeatedly not to drive into high water, this is one of the scenarios that happens when we see that. Katy Freeway at the West Loop right now, both directions are stopped, and we have seen emergency crews intervene here to get traffic completely stopped. What you may not see is that underneath the overpass right here, this is where we're seeing a lot of that high water. So all of those lanes, the four main lanes, are underwater right now. You see people stopped on the freeway. So even attempting to get on the freeway right now is probably a big mistake, especially if you're talking about the Katy Freeway. Katy Freeway at Washington right now, this is the situation. Everybody is stopped. Nobody is getting by. This is where it splits off into 610, the loop. So we're seeing a lot of people in the very same situation. If you are not immediately confronted with high water, you are confronted with a lot of traffic. 288 Southmore near the medical center. A big mess there. I was getting texts from friends early this morning saying that the highway was accumulating with water, and we do see first responders here blocking off those main lanes there. People are diverting off of the freeway. So it's a good idea to stay away from 288 right now. 610 South Loop at Alameda. This is a compelling look at the feeder road. And just a few minutes ago, we saw some debris coming down the feeder road. It looked a lot like a river, and not much has changed there either. So we're seeing a lot of feeder roads flooded just like this. 610 South Loop at Scott. The freeway is okay, but we're seeing the underpasses and the feeder roads again flooded. So if you are taking the loop, something to keep in mind. 59 at Wesleyan, excuse me, we were seeing feeder roads flooded here as well. So alternate routes are tricky right now. Since feeder roads really aren't an option, we're going to keep an eye on this and send it back to you at the desk.
All right. Thanks a lot, Sarah.
We want to go now to Precinct 4 Constable Mark Herman, who is on the phone with us. Constable, thank you so much for joining us. I actually just saw your tweet. I read a couple of the street and the intersections that you said were flooded out there in Precinct 4. Can you tell us what your deputy constables are seeing out there right now?
Right. Yeah, we've got about 15 locations here in North Harris County that are basically flooded and undrivable at this point. We've diverted some of our patrol resources to block these intersections, but the good news is the water, after the downpour stops, they do recede, And so we're encouraging folks to, turn around, don't drown, do not drive off in water, and just use good common sense.
Yeah, I mean, Precinct 4, your precinct is covers a large area. Can you talk a little bit about the 15 areas that you're watching, or some of the major ones? Is it because of high water?
Yeah, certainly. We're 522 square miles of North Harris County, and of course this system is coming from the east, moving west. We've already anticipated the primary locations now that we're getting flooded in is the Aldine-Westville Interstate 45 corridors, and it's moving west. So we've already diverted some of our emergency equipment out to our west district toward Lakewood, Fairfield. The system is basically moving west, and we're kind of moving with it to keep our folks safe out here.
Constable, have you had any reports of high water rescues that anyone's had to deal with out there?
We have not, but we've got our boats on standby with our other law enforcement partners and EMS folks, and we're ready if needed.
All right, and right now you see it coming down. It's still coming down pretty heavy?
It is. I'm at Lowetta and 45. We've got pretty good downpour here now. It's subsided some, but the swimming pool in the backyard is just overflowing. So that tells you the amounts that's coming down. And but I will say, once it subsides, we are seeing water recede. So our system out here is working. The rain just has to subside.
All right, that is good news. And I know, just to show that it's not just isolated, a viewer emailing us just within the last 5 minutes saying it's raining buckets in the Woodlands. So that's well north of where you are, and they're still getting hit pretty hard.
The Woodlands is just to the north of us, and it's pretty dark that way. So it's the good thing is it seems that the system is moving to the west, and it's moving at a pretty good clip. So hopefully it'll get out of here by this evening.
All right, Precinct 4 Constable Mark Herman, thank you so much for taking a little bit of time to update us on the situation out in your area. Thank you.
All right, we want to go now. Thank you, Constable. We want to go now to Roseanne Aragon. She is at the 610-59 interchange, where a lot of water there is creating a dire situation for drivers. Is it passable now? We see cars moving slowly behind you, Roseanne.
Yeah, that's right. I kind of want to show you guys what it looks like here. And I just spoke with Houston Police. This is the reason why you might be stuck in traffic if you're trying to take the 610 on 69 going towards downtown. It's because there's about at least a foot of water once you get past this. And Houston Police wanted me to tell people, if you're thinking about taking this exit on 59, your car may not make it. And he said, just don't do it. If you take a look over here on the other side, you'll see that traffic is backed up traffic is back for a good while back, and this is what's causing traffic on the right side headed towards downtown on 59. The street conditions here really rainy, and then lots of flooding on the right side. I can tell you one thing, Houston Police said that it's not safe to be out driving at this moment. I've seen many cars stuck in the water. I've seen many cars trying to turn around, and Houston Police said that this right here is not a good idea, as you don't know if you're going to make it past the 610 interchange here. I was actually on the roads earlier today, about an hour ago, trying to get past 59 towards the North Humble area. And I can tell you one thing on 59, once you get towards the Wesleyan exit, every single exit past that up until the Richmond downtown exit is flooded. And those feeder roads are also very flooded. So if you're on 59, you cannot exit past Wesleyan, Shepherd, Kirby, all of those exits and the feeders are flooded. This is the situation here right by the 610 interchange on 59. Again, police say it's not safe to be out driving, so if you don't have to be out, please don't. And they said don't try to get through this interchange here through 610 on 59. This is what it looks like right now. Rainy, slick roads. Everyone, please be safe. Roseanne Aragon, KPRC Channel 2 News. Back to you guys in the studio.
All right, Roseanne, thank you. We want to head now to Bill Spencer. He's been checking out the scene in the Westview area near Bissonnette and Law Street.
Hi, everybody. This is Bill Spencer, and I live in West University, and I want you to take a look at Law Street right out here where we live. This is Law Street at Bissonnette. You can see the only people on the road are people walking who are trying to make their way through the water in the distance back there. But right here along Law Street, between Bissonnette and Wesleyan, it is like a river. It's about 2.5 feet deep. I've seen several different high-profile vehicles try to make their way down the street, and they turn around, they go right, they jump into this parking lot over here to get to high ground. because the water is so deep. You don't want to try and drive down a lot of these side streets because they are just swamped. There's no way you're going to make it. Again, I've seen some high-profile vehicles driving through this, and they're barely making it. They turn around almost all the time. There goes a guy right now. Let's see what happens to him. Wow. You see the depth of the water right there. He's going to head out onto Bissonnette. He's going to be turning around because farther down Bissonnette, I've seen other people continually turning around. They know they can't make it, so they're going to come back this way. In a few minutes, I'm sure this guy's going to wind up over here in this parking lot. That's the situation in West University where we live. Again, this is at Law Street and Bissonnette.
All right, and as Britta predicted, the National Weather Service has in fact extended the flash flood warning. It now is going for much of Houston until 2:30 this afternoon. All
right, and we know that Jeff Linder, the latest tweet that he has tweeted out, said that the heavy rainfall is not moving much. Additional rainfall, already high bayous and creeks, may result in some going over banks, specifically mentioning the Willow Waterhole likely to reach the bankful. That's in the Westbury area, stressing do not travel. Robert Arnold, again, is out at 610 and Bissonnette, checking out that area there. Have you seen the water coming up much? It looks like the rain has not let up, Robert.
Yeah, it's not gone down at all. It's gotten a little bit higher because the rain has been steady. And then, of course, when you get big trucks coming through like that, you get the waves coming through this area. So far, it has been passable. But I want to go ahead and share with you the roll of the dice you're taking when you are out today until this water recedes. You see that yellow car over there? I was able to make my way over there. Very nice young man by the name of Jerry Brown was in that car. Just got off work from HEB. He was heading home, made a turn. His car started to sputter and it died out. He is called for a tow truck, but he said it's going to be about an hour and a half before he gets here. So while some cars have made it through, you have others like that poor young man who's stuck here waiting on a tow truck till at least 1 o'clock this afternoon. That is the chance you're going to take because these spots are very difficult to judge. You can't go, well, that looks like I can make it or that car made it. You just never know. And especially when you get big trucks or or SUVs coming through and they kick that water, push that water towards your car, that's only going to raise the level and increase the chances of it getting sucked up into your engine. Now, we have seen the City of Bel Air's high water vehicle going through, checking on people, making sure everybody's okay. But it's not just this intersection, Bel Air at 610. If we can, Renee, if you can go down to, there's the exit off the West Loop South coming to Bissonnette and Bel Air, and it is backing up because the water is very high right there. So some cars are going through, they're going slowly, but that's causing a real log jam coming off of that exit. And then, of course, you have that one car there that's just going to stop for the time being. Like I said, some cars make it through, others have stopped. Now, if you look down here, further down into this Bel Air, you see some cars are not making it, like that one that I showed you over there. Some cars, it just catches you. So this water is very deep. As you were seeing earlier, it's about up to my knees, and we're here again on the feeder road of the West Loop South at Bel Air. So it's not going down. It's gotten a little bit higher as it goes through. The rain has not intensified, but it has remained steady. So that means this water is not going to recede very quickly. And with a lot of these cars that are coming through, it's hard to get tow trucks out in the area. That gentleman we told you was told he's going to have to wait an hour and a half for a tow truck to come and get him. So if you do get stuck, you might as well wait a while because it's going to take a long time to get to you, as bad as the roads are in this area. So until this recedes, stay home. Don't think, well, I'll stay off the freeways, I'll take back roads. Well, we took back roads through this area too, and there were a tremendous number of spots that had a lot of ponding in it, deep ponding. Essentially, anywhere there's a dip in the road, anywhere there's some construction and there's a slight incline, it's going to fill up with water. And it's very hard to judge some of these spots until you get in the middle of it, and when you're in the middle of it, then it can be too late. So please be very careful today. This water is not receding anytime soon. Reporting live from Bel Air, Robert Arnold, KPRC, Channel 2 News.
All right, thank you, Robert. And we can just tell just in the time that he's been out there from his first live shot to a second that water has gone up significantly.
From his knees to about mid-thigh now, so not a good situation out there at all. We want to get you over to meteorologist Britta Merwin, who is tracking the radar for us and looking at the rainfall totals.
Yes, and I want to specifically focus on the northwest side. We've been covering the west side of the Beltway pretty heavily, and that's been a very hard hit area. But just north of that, we're starting to see those rainfall rates come up. This is Brick House Gully at Costa Rica Road. This is just over 1 hour. Around 10:30 in the morning, the level was around 54 feet. In an hour, a jump up by 6 feet. That's very impressive. The good news is it is still below the top of bank. This red line is the top of bank, so it still has a little more room, but definitely very dramatic rises. So if you live along our bayous and our creeks, I want you to know that you're going to continue to see those rises. And of course, rightfully so, we all have a lot of anxiety when we see that happen. So do not be caught off guard. There's definitely some areas that we're watching pretty closely. One of those is going to be this area in Brickhouse Gully. This actually dumps into White Oak Bayou, which again is within bank, but all this water has to filter down into White Oak Bayou. So that's going to be another area that you're going to start to see the water coming up. Here's a look at what we're seeing on radar. Very heavy rainfall, as Sion said and Amy reported. The National Weather Service has extended and also expanded the flash flood warning. It now includes the northwest side, so 290 corridor. Make sure that you're keeping a very close eye on the conditions. We are expecting the flood warning to stay in place until 2:30. Once we get closer to 2:30, hopefully we can see a little progression out to the west with the system, and we can see some of those rainfall rates come down. But between now and 2:30, which is over 2 hours, that's about 2 hours and 40 minutes, we're not expecting to see large improvements with how much rain is coming down. And we really can't drain out and see improvements with street flooding until we turn the rain off. So this is really going to be a story that we're tracking for several hours. This is not just something that's going to happen for an hour and then we're going to see it get all better. This is something that's going to take several hours to get through. So again, a flash flood warning continues for downtown Houston, all of central portions of Harris County, extending out to 90 until 2:30 in the afternoon. And that's where we're seeing the heaviest rainfall. This is one really hard hit area, the west side of the loop along I-10. This is very close to Transtar, where at Transtar they've seen almost 7 inches of rain in about 12 hours. So impressive rainfall totals. In just 1 hour, our rainfall rates, how much rain we're getting within an hour, exceeding 3 to 4 inches of rain based off of our Doppler estimate. That's a ton of rain. 1 to 2 inches per hour, that's going to give you some minor street flooding. 3 to 4 inches per hour, that's when we're starting to see the major issues on our feeder roads and starting to see some of our streets really take on some significant water. So again, in Harris County, just stay off the road. Stay home, stay safe, don't venture out because you could get yourself into some trouble. Rainfall totals so far today across Harris County, 3 to 4 inches, up to 5 inches, with exception of that hard hit area. Really within the loop on the west side, most of our rainfall totals in that one isolated spot are up to 6 to 7 inches of rain. And again, we have several more hours of heavy rainfall to get through. Now, the flash flood watch has included Fort Bend County, Brazoria County, Galveston County, and Chambers County. One thing I want to highlight, Fort Bend County, Brazoria County, most of the rainfall totals over, the last 12 hours are coming in around an inch. So we can take a lot more rainfall in Fort Bend County and Brazoria County. You still have the flash flood watch in effect. So make sure that you're watching those weather conditions very closely, but we can handle a little more rain before we get ourselves into trouble. The real tough spot right now is definitely Harris County, and that's where we have the flash flood warnings in effect. Flash flood watch is going to stay up until 4 p.m. Again, everyone highlighted in green, South Liberty County, Chambers County. Moving to Brazoria County into Harris County, you're going to be under these conditions until 4 p.m. Notice a very slow movement out to the west, and that's what's going to be happening as we go into our evening forecast. This upper level low is pushing out to the west, so we'll clear out east to west this evening, but it's going to take some time to really see that clear out process, but that's what our computer models have really been showing us. I want to take you on a little radar tour here and show you what's going on across town. We're going to head into portions of Fort Bend County, where Rosenberg, you're starting to see some pretty heavy rainfall over the Brazos River. Again, all of our waterways are still within bank, but we're seeing pretty rapid rises, and that's what we've been seeing around Harris County. You're just seeing that really rapid uptick in how much water is really filtering into our system. Here's our futurecast model. It's starting to really grasp reality. This is fairly close to what we're seeing outside right now. Pockets of very heavy rainfall across the metro area. It's going to continue to be on and off through the afternoon. I think it's showing more clearing around 2 p.m. than what we're actually going to see. Between now and 3 o'clock, I would expect to have heavy downpours across the metro area to be continuing. I'm not expecting any improvements with what is actually falling down until we get past about 3 o'clock in the afternoon. But then as we continue to see that push out to the west, we'll start to carve out some more dry spots. And by the time we get to 7, 8 o'clock tonight, we're going to be done with the rain. So we do have at least a better image of what we're expecting as we go into the evening forecast. But again, that flash flood watch in effect for a good chunk of southeast Texas until 4 o'clock this afternoon. And that flash flood warning is in effect for Harris County until 2:30. So stay off the roads, stay home.
Brickhouse Gully is crested and started to fall.
Okay, so Canberra was just letting us know Brickhouse Gully, which is what we started this whole segment off on. I'll go ahead and pull it back up for you. We saw the water level in Brickhouse Gully jump up 6 feet in 1 hour. That is extremely impressive. I'm just going to go ahead and pull up the graphic so you can see. And again, this is the northwest side, close to TC Jester area. We jumped up by about 6 feet. It stayed under bank, but they've said that it's now crested and we're starting to see the water level lower. So we stayed within bank. We're seeing it come down. That's good news. Keep in mind, all the water from Brickhouse Gully does go into White Oak Bayou. So if you live along White Oak Bayou, you're going to see a rapid rise because of what's just happened along Brickhouse Gully, but it should stay in bank.
All right, a bit of a sigh of relief for folks who live close to that waterway. Britta, thank you.
All right, we want to go now to Harris County Judge Ed Emmett. He's joining us on the phone. Judge, I know this morning we were talking already to Constable Mark Kerman up in sort of the north part of Harris County, but where do you have your eye on this storm? Do you see some areas of Harris County getting hit worse than others?
Well, it's more on the north side down into central, but at this point, as a matter of fact, even though we're telling people stay off the road, I'm headed into Transtar. We're going to bring a skeleton crew into the Office of Emergency Management just to monitor, because it has been pointed out, some of these rises have been so rapid, and it's unnerving. And of course, as it rises in Brickhouse, then it's going to get into White Oak, and people just have to be very careful. And so we're gonna go on into our Office of Emergency Management. Jeff Lindner, the meteorologist, is monitoring it, and we'll make some decisions as soon as I get there.
Right. If you don't get people in place and it continues to rise so quickly like that, that could be a problem getting people in once you decide that you need them.
Well, and you know, we are seeing some street flooding already, and it depends. If this system stalls, and that has become our worst nightmare in this area. It's when systems stall, and they just keep going over and over and over the same area.
Yeah, speaking of systems stalling, obviously it's been 9 months since Harvey. Do you feel like the county is better prepared to handle major rainfall events now?
No, because the situation is Harvey did significant damage to our flood control infrastructure. We've tried to put that back as best we can, but we're just now trying to get to the major improvements that need to be made. And those don't come overnight. So I know that's not a message people particularly want to hear, but you know that's why we're pushing as hard as we can to start spending significant dollars on flood control and make it job one.
Right. It hasn't even been a year, so we need some time for those recovery efforts and get all the plans into place, actually.
Yeah, I mean, we've basically recovered, but if you say, are we better off or better prepared, then no, because we've got major projects that need to be done, and they need to be done quickly, and that's why we just can't wait. We've got to start doing those now.
All right, so your main message to folks this afternoon on this 4th of July.
Thank goodness it's a holiday.
Yes.
You don't have to go anywhere.
Yes.
Stay in. This should all pass by this evening, but in the meantime, there could be some unnerving situations along particular watersheds, and certainly on some of the roads.
All right, and I'm sure when you get there to Transtar and get everything set up, we'll be hearing from you throughout the afternoon. Hopefully, we'll need limited updates, but thank you so much for joining us.
We'll do that. Thank you.
Thank you.
I want to head back out to the streets now. Our Kathy Hernandez has been updating us on the situation where she is now. And can you tell us what you're seeing?
Well, good morning. We just arrived here on the scene. We're actually now, we have moved to the southbound lanes of 59. This is right by the spur approaching the Shepherd exit. Take a look. Part of the southbound lanes are practically a river right now. Only 2 lanes getting through, but if you can see that first one closest to us is really flooded, and so only high vehicles are being allowed to go through there, or they're taking the risk actually to go through there. But take a look right beside us. You can see how swift the water is here, and it's coming all the way down, excuse me. From that ramp down there, you can see the water is just gushing out and spilling down right here on the Southwest Freeway. We were actually in the traffic right behind us, and I noticed on the map that traffic is all the way down to Elgin. So of course, if you live or work or headed in this direction, try to avoid it. I also do want to show you up on that bridge there, you can see drivers are just stopped. Possibly street flooding up there as well in the West U area. But the other direction, that's going northbound there. It looks like there are no major flooding issues on that side. But again, right here, southbound lanes, 59 and the Spur, just approaching Shepherd. This is what you're seeing right now. A pretty terrible situation for people who may be going out to celebrate the July 4th holiday. And this is what you're going to experience if you're headed down to other parts of the area, to south side of town. So, of course, only 2 lanes getting by because it's such a bad situation right now for a lot of roads and freeways here in the Houston area. We'll continue to watch the situation out here. Guys, back to you.
All right. Thank you so much, Kathy. I mean, Sian and I were just saying, looking at Kathy's live shot there, it's surprisingly a lot of traffic on the road for a holiday, and a holiday where the weather is as bad as it is. So hopefully those people were already out and then now are trying to get off of the roadways.
Of course, there are a lot of people who probably still do have to work the holiday, but hopefully you would expect that bosses would be a little more lenient in terms of attendance today because it is so bad out there on the roads. But folks who have to be out, hopefully going as carefully as they possibly can.
Right. We do want to update you. Some people were asking us about it's not really a holiday for air travel, but still some people making their way to the airport who had flights planned at Bush Intercontinental Airport. They're saying no reports of significant flight impact so far, but potential street flooding obviously up in that direction could make getting to the airport tougher. So allow extra time for travel, and you can always check flytohouston.com or your carrier for the status of your flight. But right now, they're not seeing major delays in or out.
All right. We want to go to our Ryan Korsgaard, who is at Eleanor Tinsley Park, which was set to be the host of the festivities for Freedom Over Texas tonight. Ryan, we still see the stage all set up, but it's looking a little soggy.
It is, and we have calls into the city right now trying to find out what the future of this is, because I'll tell you what, in the last little bit, let me move out of the way, and you can see this forklift busy carrying away some of the equipment that was set up over here. I'll move over here. If we look to the left, there are workers under that tent, and they are removing that. We've also seen them removing generators. David, if we can walk right over here, this is one of the smaller stages, and you can see, if we look to the left, in this area, they have a giant screen there. They're in the process of taking that down, putting it into the Ryder truck. That Ryder truck actually now sitting in water. That was not the case a short time ago. Let us take you out to the bayou. It's on the other side of this fence. I'll meet you over on the other side. The bayou, when we first got here, the crazy thing is it was way down there. That's not the case now. I'm not sure how deep this water is, but here goes, and we'll see. Much deeper. But this is the bayou quickly coming up, as Jeff Lindner had suggested. And it is, it's nearly up to the top of the boots. Don't go any deeper, David. But this is the Buffalo Bayou going into downtown. You can see the DoubleTree there. The Sabine Bridge is just beyond that. Up there, you can see another one of those generator trucks in the process of moving out. And the problem is not just the rain that's falling here, but all of that water that's coming from upstream from 610, Beltway 8, and beyond, funneling into this area. So you can imagine that lag effect. As the rain continues to fall, it continues to funnel into this, making its way towards the Houston Ship Channel, this coming up even faster. I'll tell you what, we have been in this spot for about 45 minutes since we took over for Jake Reiner just after his 11 o'clock newscast. And I'll tell you what, at that point, the water was down this way, under this covered walkway, I would say another good 8 to 10 feet. I'm not saying it's come up that far. I'm saying it has crept up more into the Buffalo Bayou Park. So right now I'm checking my phones once again. We have calls in to the city of Houston trying to learn exactly what the future is of the fireworks display. But I'll tell you what, it is not a good sign when you have some of your folks taking down a lot of that gear that they have worked for days now to set up. David, I want you to look back around. There is more equipment going in there trying to remove some of the sound and light equipment that they've, you can imagine that they have worked so hard to set up. I'm sloshing through and going to meet you up here on the other side.
kind of making it up as we go, trying to get around, because you can imagine there's a large perimeter fence set up here in this area, but that forklift going in to remove some of the more equipment. They didn't expect to take this down until starting late tonight or early tomorrow. Also, if you look over there at the main stage, they're in the process of taking down some of that equipment. They had literally some of those large blue tarps covering up very expensive, tens, hundreds of thousands of dollars in equipment now sitting out here in the rain. So that's certainly not a good sign. Again, I'm checking my phones as you take a look at that to see if we have heard anything back from the city of Houston as far as an announcement of any type. Not yet. As far as the future of this, again, it's not just the concern of what's falling from above at that point later today, but will be a concern of how far the bayou has come up. Keep in mind, this is a risk. We've seen this with the Free Press summer concert series. They have had rain issues. It's amazing how you can have what amounts to a drought and then all of a sudden you have floods. So David, I want to show right over here. If we can see this Ryder truck back here, you can see when it backed up, it was not sitting in water. Now the front as well as the back wheels are creeping into water. So wow, when it rains in Houston, it comes up quickly. Guys, back to you.
All right, Ryan, we again have no official word from the city of Houston, but the pictures say a lot.
Seem to indicate, that they're kind of pulling up stakes for a lot of those things that took a while to get into place. We want to head over now to Sarah Donchie. She's keeping an eye on our roadways through our TransStar cameras. Sarah?
Yeah, ladies, this is what it looks like out there on the road. So Britta was talking about that we're seeing some really heavy conditions building out to our west. So as the rain is wrapping around to our south and western portions of our viewing area, this is what we're seeing. This is Beltway 8 at US 90, and this is in the Missouri City Stafford area, and we're seeing cars having to drive with their flashers on. A lot of problems on I-10 as well. We have seen major issues in terms of the underpasses. This is Katy Freeway at the Post Oak. In fact, we saw a driver had to be rescued from underneath this overpass. The freeway itself is not much better. We're seeing a lot of closures, especially on 59, the Southwest Freeway. The good news is that cars are getting through here. We're seeing a few of them coming outbound on the Southwest Freeway that are making their way, and it looks like traffic is moving nicely inbound into town. So a lot of people are still out on the roads, even though it is a holiday. Things are a little bit dicier in the Greenway Plaza area. Hopefully we're seeing some of these feeder roads recede sometime soon, but it looks like the traffic has still stopped coming off the freeway at Buffalo Speedway. Back to the Katy Freeway now at the West Loop. The metro area has been hit hard by this system. We're still seeing these massive closures, and we're seeing the backup continue in either direction. Please do not try to get on I-10, the Katy Freeway, anywhere in this area. If you do, this is what you will be met with. It is absolute gridlock out there. Chaos, cars trying to come in the wrong way on the freeway and go out the other way. 288 has been a big problem. In fact, we're hearing that they are shutting this down potentially right now. Traffic's being diverted onto the feeder roads there. Lots of construction that may be making the situation worse. We can see a lot of ponding. This is the South Loop at Alameda. It looks like we're starting to see some ponding, yes, underneath the roadways there. So underneath the overpass, things are starting to collect a little bit, as has been the case all morning. 610 South Loop at Scott. Things are moving on the freeway, but again, underneath the freeway on the feeder roads is where we're starting to see a lot of problems. So beware of that and be mindful if you're heading out on the roadways this morning. Lots of flooding out there, ladies. So the best plan, as you've been saying all morning, is to try and stay home if possible. We know some of you are planning on going out of town, so hopefully you take it slow.
Sarah, thank you.
All right, we want to go out to Lee for Lisi now. She's been in our storm tracker all morning long monitoring these storms. And right now she is at 610 and
in the Meyerland area.
Meyerland area, obviously an area that so many people get so worried anytime we get rain like this. How does it look there?
So true. So true. The feeder road along 610 is actually fine, surprisingly, right now along the Beech Nut, the Braeswood exit. But we are approaching right now. I'm going to flip this camera around so you can see. We're along Beech Nut itself, and we have seen 5 to 6, now I'm probably up to 8 metro buses that have pulled over to the side of the road. You can see there's water here in the road. It looks like they're just not chancing it to go through this road, and they probably don't want to take a chance any of these buses stalling out. So if we flip around here, are we going to turn here so that they can see it? You can't. Oh, you can't, because the water on the other side of the road is high too. So we were going to try and flip around so that you could get a better view of these buses just standing along the side of the road. The water is rising here along this stretch of Beech Nut. We're right near the Lowe's over here, and the gas station, and the McDonald's, if you're familiar with this area. And we're seeing bus after bus just pull over to the side of the road. So we're going to drive around some more and see what else. I can tell you we were along 59. 59 is really where we're seeing the problems. 59 northbound. The highway itself is fine to drive on, but if you're trying to get off the highway, that's where the problems start. We've been seeing a lot of traffic just waiting along the side of the road, people not wanting to venture on the feeder because the feeder is so filled with water. Right now we're going along the wrong side of the road. There's no traffic here, so it's safe to do it because the water was so high on the opposite side of the road. We see one stalled out car here. We have a pickup truck coming by us that looks like it just made it through some of the water over there. Now you should be able to see those Metro buses on the side of the road. I'm going to look at our screen here. Yeah, you can get a view of them. So I'm seeing just here, there's about 4 buses under the overpass, and there are 2 more behind it. And then behind us now, there were a couple more buses that had pulled over to the side of the road. Also, and you probably saw with Kathy Hernandez, we were on the southbound side of the Southwest Freeway near Greenbrier, and there it was completely backed up due to high water also. So 59 is not a great road to be on. 610 looks pretty clear. People are able to travel easily. The problem is when you're trying to get off the road, so be very careful about the feeders. We saw backup at Bel Air. We couldn't see over the wall there to see what's going on, but more than likely it was the feeder over there was filling up with water. Be careful as you go out there. You do not want to get stuck in this. We've been seeing a lot of people just waiting. I don't know if you can see here. We see an ambulance going by here. Cypress Creek EMS. Not sure what that's all about. But that's the very latest here. We're going to travel more through Meyerland and let you know what we're seeing, and we'll check in with you in just a bit.
All right, Lee, thank you. Of course, you mentioned those Metro buses pulling over. Metro has already stated that the green line suspended, red line suspended, and any other service is going to be greatly slowed down today because of this weather.
Yeah, asking people to just stay put. We want to go now to TxDOT's Danny Perez. He's on the phone with us, and I know a lot of times, Danny, you go head over to TransStar when Harris County decides to get everybody together so you can all watch the situation together. What are you seeing now widespread across our area?
We're seeing multiple locations with high water, so we're just asking folks at this time to stay off the road. It's not worth it. We have several instances where the Houston Fire Department and other agencies are out doing high water rescues, and it's just not worth it. Stay off the road. We're looking at different areas where maintenance offices are all over the entire area, looking at locations to address. So right now the best thing to do is just stay off the road.
We know that TxDOT, of course, has a lot of projects under construction right now. We've had crews at 288 in Southmore where they're working on the new tollway there. Do you think people need to be extra careful as they go through these construction areas?
I mean, the best thing, first and foremost, stay off the road. But if you're out on the road, we have crews. Our contractors are active. They're at the location off 288. They're at the 610, 288 interchange. But it's just best to stay off the road. I mean, we have folks all throughout working with our contractors, with our own in-house personnel. But it's definitely a team effort, but we just want folks to stay off the road. We want to stress that.
Yeah, we're looking right now at some things that you guys have tweeted out about TxDOT closures in West Harris County. Can you talk about any of those? I mean, some pretty big ones, I-10 eastbound, Silver.
Yes, our maintenance folks are out there looking at those locations, seeing if there's anything they can do, clear drains, get water moving in those areas. But we're just seeing some of the bayous and streams that these waters drain into that are filling up. So that's what's causing some of the backup. But that's why we're out there actively working with law enforcement and trying to address some of those areas. There, streams and the bayous in the vicinity of those roadways are backing up, and we want to make sure we're trying to do the best we can to keep the water flowing. But if they're backing up, it's hard for that water to drain off. But we're hoping once the rain slows down, it does a lot of that water starts to drain off. We're seeing some areas where the water is starting to recede in certain areas, but it's just going to be a process. And the best thing for folks to do is stay off the road until those waters recede.
Right. I mean, just while we have you on the phone, just some more specifics from your agency. The closures update was I-10 eastbound at Silver, I-69 northbound and southbound around the 610 intersection, the West Park toll road around 610, and then 610 southbound at West Park, all closed due to high water. Again, don't make him say it again. Please just stay off the roads. I mean, obviously it'll make the job easier of rescue personnel and firefighters, but I mean, just to keep everybody safe on this 4th of July. We appreciate you for joining us. Thanks so much, Danny.
Thank you. Have a great day.
Thank you, Danny. And often, too, Amy, in these instances, we see people going around the barricades, and we really want to stress that is not a good idea. So if TxDOT, HPD, any law enforcement has a road blocked off, do not try to make your way around that. It is blocked for a reason.
Absolutely. All right. We now have Mario Diaz, who is out live right now. He is at 59 and Chimney Rock right there on the feeder road. Mario, at least it looks like, well, has the rain let up some? Not really. I thought it looked like it had, but
no, you're still seeing rain. You're still seeing rain out here, Amy, and you're also still seeing this. As we just talked about vehicles staying off the roads, you're seeing people attempting to use the feeder road here and traverse waters that go up well above, I would say, 4 inches or so in this particular area. So well over the curb. We're reporting live from a parking lot, and you can see behind us you have some individuals that attempt to go through it, and then right behind them you have vehicles that are parked. You see the individuals that are just sitting there waiting this out until they can actually go through with waters that are much lower than what we're seeing right now. And it's interesting, we're just talking about don't get on the roads, but if you're on the roads, try to identify a place to go. You can see you have this gas station right here at Chimney Rock and the feeder just north of 59, and you can see how people are just standing there waiting for this to all end, but obviously the rain continues to come down. What is interesting is if you can see right over here going into 610, I actually was driving over here about 20 minutes ago from our location there at 8181 Beach, Southwest Freeway in Beach Nut, and you didn't hit any traffic until right about here, and you could see the red lights that are lining up going to 59 in the loop there. But again, this scene right now being replicated all around the area with the feeder roads, and these are definitely roads, if you see this kind of situation, you don't want to even go near it. You want to be like these individuals right over here inside this gas station, this Shell. You want to just wait it out and try to hope for the best as quickly as possible. Back to you in the studio.
Definitely the best move at this time. Mario, thank you.
All right, so we see Jeff Linder tweeting right now with the Harris County Flood Control District, White Oak Bayou and Jersey Village rising rapidly, and telling people there's heavy rainfall in that area right now and that residents really need to pay close attention to that bayou level there. We want to go over to Britta Merwin, who is following it. I mean, that's kind of what you're seeing. We've had this warning extended until 2:30 now.
Yes, and it makes sense because we're seeing such slow movement, but the good news is there is movement. This upper level low is slowly creeping out to the west, but that's why we're keeping the watch up until 4 o'clock as the National Weather Service looking at what we're looking at, and we're just not seeing fast progression, which means that we're going to be stuck in this mess for a little bit of time. We can't see large improvements with the street flooding until we get the rainfall rates at least down, but better yet, get the heavy rain out of here. So we have a flash flood watch in effect until 4 p.m. Additional flood warnings are possible even in Fort Bend County, Brazoria County, Chambers County, and Galveston County, but we've stacked up less rain in those locations. For instance, Fort Bend County has only seen about an inch of rain in many spots, so they can handle additional rainfall. Where we can't handle additional rainfall, and unfortunately where we still have heavy rain, is in Harris County. That's where we had the flash flood warning until 2:30, and it has been expanded to include the northwest side, so the 290 corridor is now included. I did want to touch on Brays Bayou at Stella Link. It hasn't crested yet, but the good news is it's still below bank. But for the folks in Meyerland, you're noticing that it's running very fast and very high, and of course an area where we're going to have a lot of anxiety. It is still below bank. It is getting close to the crest, but an area to continue to watch. In fact, Jeff Linder at the Harris County Flood Control is watching Willow Waterhole, Brays, and White Oak Bayou very closely. Those are 3 areas where we have seen a lot of rainfall that we really need to watch closely. But again, everything is still in bank, but just getting very, very close. One thing I wanted to bring up about Willow Waterhole at Willow Bend, this is how much rainfall we have seen in 5-minute increments. So each one of these bars represents 5 minutes. Over 1/4 of an inch in 5 minutes. the next 5 minutes, 1/4 of an inch, stays at that level. So we're looking at about 30 to 45 minutes of seeing 1/4 of an inch of rainfall every 5 minutes. I mean, that's an unbelievable amount of water. So that's why we're seeing, the flash flooding concerns across the area. Let's go into the flash flood warning to give you an update on these specific areas. Again, it's going to be the 290 corridor, the northwest portions of the Beltway and also the Loop, and then extending from downtown all the way down to where the Beltway hooks into 288 and also the Southwest Freeway. So if you live in Harris County, especially on the southwest side and the northwest side, just stay home. It's not safe to be out. You've been seeing all the images of the flooding that we're seeing on the feeder roads, and you can get yourself into a very dangerous situation, especially downtown with some of those underpasses that we typically see the flooding, like Post Oak. You're going to see that happening. So make sure that you stay off the roads. Now, if you're joining us and you live on the northeast side, you are not included in the flash flood warning, but you're under a watch, and we've already seen 3 to 4 inches of rain in some of these areas just today, and warnings are possible. So make sure that you have a way to get those warnings in case they do pop up. Again, what we're expecting is that this upper level low is going to continue to slowly move out to the west. As it pushes out to the west, we're going to clear east to west, and we're expecting that to happen during the evening forecast. So again, until we get to about 4 p.m., what you see is unfortunately what you get. We are going to see some slow clearing in our east counties, but it's going to take some time to really see some large improvements. So again, it's just going to continue its slow march out to the west, and we'll see that slow clearing as we go into the evening forecast. Our Futurecast model having a really rough time latching onto reality. It's not initializing well at all. It's saying right now that we're pretty much clear in the metro area, which obviously we are not. So take this model with a grain of salt, but I'll show it to you anyways because it does show the story of what we're expecting, and that's going to be some slow clearing as we go into the evening forecast. National Weather Service is still confident on that forecast as well as we are, but definitely the next 4 hours and into the early half of the evening, it's going to be a really, really slow go. So please, if you live in Harris County, just stay home and off of the roads. That's where we're seeing the most dire situations with the very bad street flooding. And if you live in other portions of the metro area, into Fort Bend County, Brazoria County, and down to the coast, make sure that you're listening for potential warnings, because we could see very heavy downpours, and that can cause a warning to pop up with little notice. Over to you.
All right. Thanks a lot, Britta. All of our leaders are sort of watching all of this and getting in place. Should it continue all afternoon as it's expected to? Yes. We want to go now to talk to Police Chief Art Acevedo on the phone. Chief, can you tell us sort of where you are, and are you headed to TransStar, where you're monitoring all this?
All right, it sounds like we don't have the chief. Chief, can you hear us?
Hi, guys.
Hey.
Hey, Chief, how you doing?
Good. How y'all doing?
We're staying dry for now. We hope everyone else can get dry eventually. We want to know, though, we had a crew over at Eleanor Tinsley Park just a minute ago. Live pictures of equipment being removed from the Freedom Over Texas area there. Can you tell us the status? Is it canceled?
Well, I think that the mayor's going to make an announcement one way or the other here in the next couple of hours. He's at the EOC right now assessing that. But with this weather event, it's really important for people to realize that they need to really stay home if at all possible, not be on the roads. We're seeing a lot of widespread floodings on our streets and highways, and I think we're going to have some rain for the rest of the day on and off, and it's probably a good day to just relax, stay home, and barbecue and monitor the weather.
Yeah, absolutely. I know that leading up to this, everyone sort of was calling for rain, and it was just, it's going to be rain or shine as long as we don't have the thunderstorms. I just don't know that we anticipated this storm sitting over our area for such a long period of time. How are your officers doing, and are they having to assist in any sort of, I imagine, a lot more accidents on the roadways?
Well, they're out actually deployed. We've deployed all of our high rescue vehicles. We've activated our Department Operations Center and the EOC. Mayor activated the EOC for the city, and we have all of our assets out in the streets. We'll probably put everybody on 12-hour shifts here for the next 24-hour period to make sure we have enough resources. But at the end of the day, it's really important for the community to realize that we all have a shared responsibility to really not become part of the problem. If you don't need to be out on the road, it's a good decision to just stay home and monitor the weather and monitor the weather reports that you are putting out.
All right, Chief, and we are still seeing a lot of cars on the roads. I mean, we know Houston's a big city, and so there are folks who have to work this holiday. But what's your advice even to employers out there who are still calling for folks to come into work?
My advice is that if you're going to have to go to work, if you have to hit the road, plan ahead. Make sure you check the websites to look at roadway conditions. But the most important thing is do not become a statistic in terms of having your car flooded or getting yourself in a situation where you have to be rescued. We have some flooding on the highways already, and so remember, it only takes about 6 inches of water, moving water, to make a car start floating down the highway there. So don't chance it. The old adage, turn around, don't drown, is something that we can all live by. And the last thing we want on this holiday weekend for somebody to lose their lives because they didn't take flooded roadways seriously. And I think that's our biggest threat right now.
All right. Thank you so much, Chief. We appreciate the update.
All right, guys. Thank you.
All right, so Police Chief Art Acevedo saying that he expects Mayor Turner to be making an official decision one way or the other very soon about the status of Freedom Over Texas.
Yeah, he said it would be within the next couple of hours, he thought. And Ryan Korsgaard is out at Eleanor Tinsley Park where they were planning on having the Freedom Over Texas celebration. Ryan, have you heard anything from there?
City sources, no. Information not coming from here at this point, but we do have calls into the mayor's office of special events. City sources telling me right now that the Freedom Over Texas, as far as the music performances, will be canceled tonight. And we understand that because let me move out of the way and show you. This is the stage. They've been busy for about the last half hour taking down a lot of this stage. You can imagine tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of dollars of equipment right there that they're trying to protect. So we understand right now the city is looking at the possibility of the fireworks going on. Again, that is a possibility. We're told the fireworks have not been compromised as the water has come up. We also know right now that the Mayor Turner is at the Office of Emergency Management. It has been activated at a level as he is being briefed on the situation. The big concern by the city is the safety of everyone who is out here. So he is asking people not to go outside right now. Right now, they're trying to decide exactly what is going to happen with the with this celebration. But again, the one thing that they are looking at is the possibility of the fireworks going on. So you can tell as we look around here at Eleanor Tinsley Park and there in the bayou, you can see that they are tearing down part of the stage. They are taking down that giant screen that was right there within that framework. As you look a little bit to the left, you can tell that Bud Light Pavilion that had gone up has taken on water in the last bit as that man is wading into water. We have breaking news to pass along to you now. We have confirmed, Channel 2 News confirming that the fireworks will go on. The pyrotechnics tonight will go on. Again, those have not been damaged at all in the flooding. We're expecting a 12:45 news conference this afternoon. That is in about 30 minutes that will convey more information on the plans. But we know that the mayor right now is at the Office of Emergency Management with the city getting briefed. His biggest concern is that everybody coming out to this later today would be safe. The big concern as we look here, you can see that they are tearing down so much of this. Also, more news, we're just learning that Chris Young will perform under a protected stage, and so that part will go on. We just know that there are parts of this that will not be open to the public because what they're trying to tear down at this point, but we understand at some place Chris Young will in fact perform tonight. It will not be at this stage and probably will be a much smaller protected venue. Again, we're expecting to learn more information at 12:45 at a news conference. So again, the fireworks, the pyrotechnics will go on. We're just learning that as we're on the air. However, the live musical performances that tens of thousands of people come out to see every year here, that will not go on. So all of that news coming to us in about the last 30 to 90 seconds, updating you. Fireworks will go on, the musical performances will not. Guys, back to you.
All right, some last minute information there, but it kind of helps people plan their day. Of course, for now, all you need to know is that you should just stay at home.
Absolutely. And of course, we'll carry Mayor Turner's remarks on Freedom Over Texas when that news conference happens. Right now, I want to get you back out to the Bel Air area. Robert Arnold has been out there with the waters that have been rising. And I got a tweet from Bel Air Police saying their high water vehicle was on the roads out there. Have you seen it out there yet?
Oh, yes. We've seen it pass by a couple of times, as well as City of Bel Air Public Works trucks. Those big, large dump trucks have been going through, checking on people, making sure those who got stuck could get out. They could hop a ride in those big trucks. So they've really been out and about making sure that anybody who got stuck out here did have a way out. Now, I do have a tiny bit of good news. The water is slightly going down in where we are. We're at Bel Air at the West Loop South
feeder road, and we have seen the water decreasing slightly, but it is by no means a great situation out here just yet. If you look on the high side of the street, that's going to be to the left of the street. Cars are getting through that way. That median, the water was up over the curb when we first got out here a couple of hours ago. Now clearly you can see the curb, so cars are getting through. It's also, as we've been watching cars go through the underpass, West Loop South at Bel Air, we have noticed the water's going down a little bit too. Cars are having a little bit of an easier time getting through there, but don't take the chance. As you can see, that poor gentleman in that white Jeep behind me, he got caught, came through, hit a patch that was a little bit deeper than some of the other spots on Bel Air, and the car flooded out. We've also seen about 2 or 3 other cars. Now, the one thing too, going to kind of come up here on the sidewalk just to give you a point of reference. Also, when we got out here earlier, this strip of grass was covered. It was underwater. Now you can clearly see that that is receding through the area, but it is happening slowly. So please be very, very careful if you're out on the road, because the water is not going down quickly, and there's still a lot of spots where you can get caught off guard. Now, if you walk with us, we're going to watch a little further down here. I'm going to check on this exit coming off the loop at Bissonnette and Bel Air, because that was really getting backed up at one point with a lot of cars, because you have so many deep spots on the feeder road. It was backing cars up through that area. So if you bear with us as we walk through, one of the things I was trying to tell you about is you're never going to be sure if you're going to be the one to make it or not. Obviously, cars are getting through this underpass, but you see that one silver car in the middle, that poor car flooded out. We also earlier had mentioned this gentleman in this yellow Charger over here too. He just took a corner and the car flooded out. Spoke to him. He was just coming back. He had just gotten off work at HEB in Bel Air and unfortunately got caught in a deeper spot, and the car started to sputter and he got out. We have this car over here, Honda, that also got flooded. Now, it does not look, no, the conditions have not gotten any better coming off the loop at Bel Air and Bissonnette area on the ramp. Let me see if we can get past this bank sign here. Careful, Renee, you've got a step coming through and there's grass right there. I don't want you to trip. So if you come down here, if we get past that, if you can look past that area, you okay? I got you. Just come right there. All right, I got you. All right. And if you point that way, you can see how backed up the traffic is coming off the loop into this area, Bissonnette and Bel Air again. So you've still got a lot of deep spots. That line of cars, people are starting to be a little more cautious. They're going to pull off to the side of the road. They're finding parking lots. They're finding some spots under the underpasses where they're just going to sit and wait it out. Like I said, good news is we have seen the water go down slightly in this area. Now, the rain has been steady, but it's been a very light rain, so it's not going to be anything that's going to really increase the water levels through here. But until this rain is out of here, until the bayous have a chance to drain a little bit, the water is going to stay deep in a lot of spots throughout the city. And so you don't want to take the chance as you go through that you're going to hit a deep spot, because it's very hard to judge. It's going to get sucked up. That water's going to get sucked up into your engine, and you're going to be stuck. Like that poor gentleman I had mentioned earlier, he called for a tow truck and said, we can maybe get out there around 1 o'clock. Now, that was about 11:45 this morning, so even if you do get stuck, tow trucks are available. It's just going to take them a long time to get to you, because a lot of people have flooded out and the roads are still a mess. Plus, you have cars that are going a little too fast through some of this high water, and like that gentleman, and it's going to kick the water up. That could actually swamp your car too if you're a little bit shorter than the car going past you. When it kicks that water up, that only increases the chances of your engine sucking the water in as well and swamping you out. So please be very careful, and as you've been hearing all day long, if you do not have to get out, if it is not an emergency, just stay home. The rain will eventually go through, the streets will eventually drain, and you'll have a much easier time getting around. It's better that than to take a chance and be stuck out here for hours waiting on a tow truck and thousands of dollars in repair work when your car does get flooded. So please be very careful. Reporting live from Bel Air, Robert Arnold, KPRC, Channel 2 News.
All right. Thank you so much, Robert, for monitoring that situation there. He's at 610 near Bissonnette in Bel Air area.
All right, so we've been asking you if you can safely take photos or video of what's happening in your area, to please do so. Send them in to KPRC Click 2 Pens. And we've got some images we want to show you now that your fellow viewers have been sending in. And this is video of Bray's Bayou at Alameda. And you can see how the water has risen very close to the banks. But as far as our latest check of all the waterways and bayous, things are still within bank. At this point, we want to thank viewer Mike Headley for sending that in to us.
And then we've got 2 pictures from Channel 2 viewer Ron Ashby. He took the photos from over on Augusta near San Felipe, near the YMCA there. And you can see what looks to be a driver there, his car stranded, a serious situation, stuck in high water. And then a man walking through high water, he took some video. I mean, obviously, when you drive into this high water, that's why everybody's saying stay off the roads, because when you drive into it and then have to escape your car because it flooded out, I mean, it creates these dangerous situations where, you know, your car could move, your car could get flooded out. It's just better to safe to pull over to a dry area if you happen to already be on the roads and wait it out.
Absolutely.
We could be waiting a while because now we're under a flash flood warning until 2:30. Right now, but this rain is expected to continue on through this evening.
And we have some more pictures for you now from Channel 2 viewer Taffy Bowerman. This is at Post Oak near the Galleria, and you can see the high water in that area with what looks like some cars pulled off, parked in that area by the Whole Foods over there.
Yeah, and on Sage between Richmond and Westheimer, that's where this next photo was taken, very high there. I mean, you'll recognize this photo from there right around the Galleria, but it looks like cars were trying to turn around, and then even in that middle part, they got stuck right in the high water. So you can't always tell how high the water is. I mean, in some of the shots you might see, like, oh, it's fine, you know, it's barely a quarter way up their wheels, but then you drive 2 more feet and you're too far in it, and it's too late to turn around.
And that's why they say just don't go in it. You want to check in with the system, how the Houston airport system, I should say, is handling this severe weather. Bill Begley is joining us by phone now. And Bill, we just got a tweet from the Hobby airport system saying they're obviously having flights impact, but also getting to the airport, both Hobby and Bush, a bit of a problem now.
Hi, good afternoon. Yeah, that would be the number one thing we're telling passengers now is to make sure that you're checking your route before you go to the airport. Hobby Airport just reported from our operations group that they're starting to see some high water, that the street flooding impacts to the routes include Airport Boulevard from Broadway to Telephone. That would be westbound in both directions. High water, probably not safe to drive in. And Monroe, coming in from the west side, has high water both in north and south. So, again, make sure that you're checking your routes, make sure you're checking roadways. You know, we follow the turnaround, don't drown credo to the letter. So we're checking closely with our operations groups at both Bush and Hobby Airport as much on roadways as we are on flight impacts.
And what are the flight impacts?
Go ahead. We're starting to see some flight impacts at Hobby. I haven't got any significant, what they would call significant, a large number of delays or a significant length of delays at Bush Airport so far. We've actually been lucky that for a good part of the morning, the system allowed us actually to have a couple of decent paths for arrivals and departures. The rate is a little bit slower, and because it is July 4th, the holiday actually has a few less flights than we normally would on a normal Wednesday, so that helps with that a little bit. But right now at Hobby, we're starting to see, we've got 3 or 4 departures, or about 5 departures, I should say, that are an hour in length, and then we've got about 8 departures that are like 15 to 30 minutes right now. Not any real issues for arrivals, but the departures are starting to have some issues, and we're keeping a close eye on things like taxiways and runways because, you know, in the end, if we can't move the aircraft around the airport safely, then that will slow down the rate of flights coming in and out, and we're going to do whatever it takes for us to make sure that you get to your destination as safe as possible.
All right, some definitely good reminders. Thank you so much for filling us in. So obviously you can check with your carrier if you do have a flight scheduled to go out today. You can check flytohouston.com. That's another good way to check and see flight status. But again, what he was saying is give yourself extra time. I mean, you always get there early, but to find a parking spot to get there and get through some of those flooded roadways because they are seeing high water across a lot of them.
Just got a tweet from Mayor Turner, and he says we were getting from 9 to 11, 3 to 4 inches of rain per hour. That has dropped significantly. There is a lot of street flooding, and listen to what he says here. A lot of street flooding throughout the city and some structural flooding along Washington and Westcott Shepherd. So the first we're hearing of possible floodwaters into buildings, he says, along Washington and Westcott and Shepherd. The bayous are holding. So Britta, we want to turn things over to you now for an update on these totals.
Yeah, and we have viewers that are reaching out to us on Facebook that are concerned about Addicks and Barker Reservoir. They're doing just fine. Rightfully so. Everyone has a lot of anxiety, especially considering that we are post-Harvey. We look at floods completely differently, but our reservoirs are just fine. Everything is still in bank. What we're seeing is tremendous street flooding. This is how much rain we have seen in just 6 hours. Almost 8 inches of rain, 7.5 inches of rain in 6 hours. hours at TransStar. NRG Park over 7 inches of rain. Harris at McGregor 6.5 inches almost, and then White Oak in the Heights almost 6 inches of rain, and San Felipe about 5 inches of rain. So this is a lot of water that's coming down in our system, and that's why we're seeing this considerable amount of street flooding. A little bit of good news, we are starting to see a little slow creep out to the west. This is an upper level low, so until it moves out of here, we're going to continue to see the steady and sometimes heavy rainfall. We're still tracking the flash flood warning in effect until 2:30. I'm not expecting any change with that. That's going to stay in place for sure for the northwest side and the southwest side of town. Notice that we have a few counties outlined in green. That is a flash flood watch until 4 o'clock. So until 4 o'clock, we're expecting conditions to be prime for heavy rainfall, and additional flash flooding is possible. We have had considerably lower rainfall totals in Fort Bend County and Brazoria County and Chambers County, so we can handle additional rainfall in those areas before we get ourselves into trouble. Right now, the focus is really Harris County and southern portions of Montgomery County, where we've seen that very heavy rainfall. Flash flood warning, just a zoomed in look along the 290 corridor, the northwest portion of the Beltway, all of the loop, and then the south portions of the Beltway moving closer to the Southwest Freeway and also 288. That's where we're seeing that considerable amount of street flooding. A few reports coming in from our viewers. Pam Dixon, 59 and FM 525, over 6 inches of rain in her rain gauge today. And then Ron Vernon out of the Montgomery area, Montgomery County, 5 inches of rain. So definitely very, very impressive rainfall totals that are coming out. As I said, everything is still in bank, but there's a few areas that we're watching very closely. White Oak Bayou in the Jersey Village area. It's rising quickly. It's still within bank, but a spot that you should watch very closely. And also, you know, they continue to watch a few areas. Willow Waterhole is a spot on the southwest side that's been hit pretty hard. The good news is some of those rainfall rates, how much rain we're getting per hour, it is starting to come down. We're not seeing as many spots getting 3 and 4 inches of rain per hour, which is what we saw about 2 hours ago and what created this mess in the first place. Take a look at that upper level low as it continues to push out to the west. You can see that rainfall is just now getting into our northwest counties. I mean, Washington County, you had almost a completely dry morning, and now you're just starting to see that rainfall. And that's what we're going to experience as we dry out. It's going to dry from east to west as we go into the evening forecast. By the time we get to firework time, most of this rainfall is going to be completely done. We might see an isolated shower, but the heavy stuff is going to be out of here, and that threat of flooding is also going to be behind us. We really just have to focus on the next 4 hours as we continue to have the heavy rainfall really come in. Let's take on a little bit of a radar tour. I'm going to take you up to the north in Montgomery County along the North Freeway, Conroe into the Woodlands. Definitely some steady rainfall. It hooks all the way into the Beltway, and then, as I said, once you get into, you know, portions of Harris County and into the Beltway and the Loop, that's where it's pretty heavy. I'm going to take you back to that flash flood warning just to get you updated. Again, if you were in Harris County, we need you to stay off the roadways completely, especially on the northwest side and also the southwest side, as you are under a flash flood warning until 2:30 this afternoon. Over to you.
All right. Thanks a lot, Britta. We have our crews spread out, obviously, all over our area. We want to take a look now from photojournalist Bobby Wiggins. He was inside the loop between 610 and 290. And we've got a live shot there at the scene. I mean, obviously, always a lot of construction going on over in the 290 area, but he is on the feeder road here. It looks like a 610. And you can see cars. It's passable exactly right where he is, but not advisable to be out in it anywhere on the roadways. But you can see they're also getting high water there as well.
One of those situations where they're driving as far close to the edge of the feeder there as they can, and just watching the car in front of them and trying to catch that wake to get through it. Our Lee Ferlisi is out on the roads as well. She has been in the Meyerland area checking on the road conditions there for us. And Lee, what are you seeing now? Is the rain let up at all?
It looks like it's let up just a little bit. We're along Beech Nut near Ferris. So for anyone who lives in this area, they know that the roads over here can, you know, there can be street flooding over here. I'm going to turn the camera around so you can see what we're seeing. Right here along Beech Nut, we're heading towards Meyerland Plaza along Beech Nut and 610. We are seeing this area of street flooding. We've been seeing cars slowing down to get through this area. About 20 minutes to 30 minutes before, there were actually some cars who had just come to a stop because they didn't want to get through the water here. You can see it in the roads. We're heading towards 610 right now. 610 itself was fine. We could drive along it. But it's when you try to get off of some of the exits along 610. You saw Robert Arnold along Bel Air Boulevard over there. And we saw it from
610, the exit side of it, as people were trying to get off the exit, the cars were just stopped, clearly because of water along the feeder roads. We've gotten through the water here along that stretch of Beech Nut, and we're headed towards the bayou area to take a look at it over there. Go ahead. Go ahead. So we're driving along Beech Nut right now, heading towards 610. We were on 59 earlier, and a stretch between the 610 interchange and the spur on the northbound side of the Southwest Freeway. If you were trying to get off any of those exits, driving along 59 was fine on the northbound side, but if you were trying to get off any of those exits, people were just stopped and waiting along the side of the highway. The feeders were filled with water. And then on the southbound side, if you were trying to get off the Greenbrier exit, right before the Greenbrier exit, the traffic had come to a slow crawl, and people were all merging to the left-hand side of the road because it looked like about 3 lanes on the right-hand side of the highway were absolutely filled with water. So again, we're traveling along Beech Nut, heading towards 610. We just saw a stretch of the street over there where there was water and people had to slow down to get through it. We're gonna go up to the light over here and make a right and go towards the bayou and take a look at it over there. But you know, it's just not a great time to be out on the roads. If you can, just stay where you are. We're approaching again. We see the buses. We talked about this earlier. There were a group of Metro buses that were stopped on the side of the road. We see they are still here along Beech Nut. There were about 8 buses before. Let's get a count here. We're coming up on 1, 2, and about 4 more under the overpass there. So probably we're seeing about 6 buses that have just pulled over to the side of the road, not venturing any further down Beech Nut. We're at the light now. We're about to turn towards the bayou along the feeder. The feeder over here looks good so far near Beech Nut and 610. And as we're moving forward, we're seeing the cars making their way down. It looks pretty good near Meyerland Plaza. That's always a good thing for anyone who has lived in this area and knows the stress that so many families encounter when there are rainstorms. But fortunately, this looks very good right now, which has to be a relief to a lot of people in Meyerland. We're approaching the bayou. I'm looking at 610 right now. It looks like everything is moving along 610, which is also good. We're just going to give you a view of what's happening up in front of us and take a look at the bayou. They've been doing a lot of construction along the bayou, this section of the bayou. If you live in Meyerland, it's your turn to get that part of the bayou fixed. They've been widening it, so it's a huge construction project that's been going on over here, and everyone is hoping that it will alleviate future flooding problems, bring that water level down that we all know so well can happen within the Meyerland area. We're standing at the light right now. Byron's taking a turn onto North Braeswood, and we're getting a look at the bayou. Let me see if I can turn the camera so you can see where it is right now. I'm going to move this camera to the side. Let's see if we can get a view of the bayou. Right now, let's see. Nope, you can't see anything yet. From what we can see, you know, it's well within its banks. And the roads here are passable, so that is good news. But again, you know, if you don't have to be out here, it's just not worth it. There are certain pockets of streets where we're seeing water, and it's just not worth the chance of your car stalling out. That's what's happening over here. We'll keep traveling around. Back to you in the studio.
All right, Lee, thank you so much. And joined now by Sarah Donchi. It's 12:49. We are anticipating the start of a press conference any moment now with Mayor Sylvester Turner. We will take you to that news conference as soon as it happens.
Yeah, and part of the big news there, of course, the city's plans for the 4th of July. We know that the bulk of Freedom Over Texas has been canceled as a result of this significant weather event that we're having. And you have been our eyes and ears throughout this weather event. So we want to show you some of the photos that you are sending into the KPRC Channel 2 newsroom right now. This is a picture of flooding in the Montrose area.
Sent in to us by Cynthia McCartney. This picture coming in just in the past hour, and you can see the water over the roads there as people are trying to make their way. And you can see it's up coming up over that fire hydrant there, close to it.
Montrose is very difficult to navigate this morning, and as we've had more staff coming in, they have said the same thing throughout the last few hours. This is another picture from one of our viewers. David Quintanilla sent us this picture of flooded streets. This is near Sage and Hidalgo, so as you know, that is near the Galleria area. Sion, we know that a lot of these surface streets in the Galleria area tend to flood, as well as some of the underpasses. So unfortunately, this is a familiar sight.
I want to take a look at another picture sent in by Joe Sherry Bunyard Roads of Green Ridge North. This is in the area of I-45 and the Beltway. So all of you, thank you so much for safely getting those pictures and video to us of what's happening in your area as we try to navigate our ways through this storm.
Yeah, so we're just getting this message in from Metro Houston, and we want to share it with you now. They just tweeted, attention riders, Metro bus and rail service impacted by flash flooding. Metro Rail Red Line is affected south of Smithlands. The Green Line is suspended. Delays and detours on various routes are in effect right now. Please stay put in a safe place while the storm passes. And we know that there are probably fewer people riding Metro today since this is a national holiday, but there are still some people trying to hit the road. So if you do take Metro, even on a day like today, that's an important message for you to take note of.
Yeah, we've been seeing video of those Metro buses pulling over themselves, too, because they've got to wait it out like everyone else. Campbell Marshall is joining us now with more viewer images of this flooding out here.
That Click 2 Pins has been a valuable asset to us, good weather and bad weather, and today is no different. We look at this shot here. This is from the Buffalo Bayou downtown. I showed this to you earlier, but it's worth looking at again because it really does show the high rise, that muddy water coming through. The good news is it's well down. A lot of times when it's really in a dangerous level, it's well to the north. You see the flow and the heavy rain that's been coming down in that area near downtown. This is a shot of the animals who don't care. But some people are saying, you know what, we'll put the tarp up. We know it's raining, but there's something we got to do. They put the old barbecue grill up there and they're ready to keep going. They are in one part of town where they don't have the high water over their curbs. But we're seeing this shot here. Megan Cochran sent this in from Houston, looking out her back door where the water is coming up through the fences and obviously one of those high water areas that we see throughout. And look out through the fence there where the car, the water is up to the wheels, and so that shows just how high that water is coming. As that water came down in some areas, we know the Transtar got almost 7 inches in one period of time here. In Baytown, flooding in Chambers County, in that area where the horses are out there, all the fields were certainly looking very much like that. And looking at this area 59 behind Montrose area, stalled traffic where cars were stopping, where there was a good idea for them to stop in some of those areas there. So looking forward, here's a shot down in the Houston area. This is J.D. Flaherty. We had a shot of him at one point earlier, and this is at 11:40, and he's near the area where the Transtar folks had that 7 inches in that one period of time. Here's a cross street at Sherwin, it looks like, and that area down in that shopping area in that apartment complex. This is right outside of our studio here, looking out on Winsbury, completely flooded. That area gets flooded whenever there's a lot of rain. You can expect that area is going to be one of those areas that's flooded without a problem. Update, cars stalled under the traffic lights. This is San Felipe and Post Oak. This is not a place to go. Like so many other areas, you just don't want to go. And with all the construction, some cars still going into traffic there, washed into the oncoming traffic. Just a bad situation there. So if you can stay inside, that's still the advice. Stay inside, don't go out. We've got a few more hours. This upper level low continues to move very slowly. Here's one of the gullies over its bank in the Greater Heights area. And so what happens is when the water comes down so quickly in the Greater Heights area that's near where Transtar is, where the water came down, you can see where the water was coming up over the roadway there and filling up pretty heavily there. We're continuing to watch all of these areas. We want you to continue to send your Click 2 Pins into us. Use that app. It's very helpful to us both in good weather and bad, and certainly now is the time we can give you more updates about the area and what's going on. So be safe out there. Stay inside. We still have a little bit more to go from this rain event.
Well, thank you so much.
We want to go now to our Ryan Korsgaard at Eleanor Tinsley. He has a breaking news update about the city's plans for freedom over Texas. We've been hearing different things. Ryan, what's happening now?
What we understand and what the mayor is going to announce in a very short amount of time is he's expected to come out and say, yes, those fireworks will go on at 9:35. That's according to city sources. That is expected to go on with the fireworks that you are able to And again, our producers confirming what we brought you about 30 minutes ago, that the fireworks are on. As far as the music, as we mentioned earlier, that will be off with the exception of the key singer here tonight. That will be a much smaller televised performance. But I want to show you back here. It is amazing what we have seen in the last hour and a half since we have been here. Just how the water has come up into this bayou. And there's a photographer down there taking a picture of some floating letters. Well, originally those spelled Houston. At this point, they are floating out there in the bayou that is now swollen up. If you look over to the top of your screen towards the Sabine Bridge and the Sabine Lofts, you really get an idea of how much this bayou has grown in the last couple of hours. It is designed to do this. It is basically a giant drainage ditch. However, when you have events like this, major events, sadly, they are impacted like this. So we expect the governor, or I should say rather the mayor, Mayor Sylvester Turner, expected to announce that, yes, those fireworks will go on at 9:35. We are told by city sources that the fireworks have not been affected at all by the flooding. In fact, previously they have been set up far and high above this water. As far as the musical acts and everything else expected to go on, those will not happen. The city expected to refund at face value the tickets that had been sold, so many of them, for this event tonight. So that is the very latest here along the Buffalo Bayou that, as Jeff Linder promised just a couple of hours ago, will continue to grow, even as I think the water has let up here, right here around Eleanor Tinsley. Guys, back to you.
And we will carry the news conference. Actually, it's happening now. I want to take you live to City Hall, where Mayor Turner is announcing plans for Freedom Over Texas.
Fortunately, we will cancel all but the fireworks. So the fireworks will go off as scheduled at 9:35. So tune into television to watch that show. Patrons will not be allowed on the site, for the safety of our volunteers, of our work crews, and certainly of our patrons who attend this event every year. We're closing the event site, except for our media, who can come on and film as they typically do. But we're very disappointed, of course. But of course, while we can plan great events, we can't control the weather. So we've had to cancel everything again, except for the fireworks, which will go off as scheduled. The good news is that they are high and dry, and so that will begin at 9:35 p.m. this evening. I also want to let everyone know who has purchased tickets already that we will refund those tickets. Give us a little bit of time. We've got to talk with our ticket company, but we will refund the face value of those tickets. So give us a couple of weeks to get that refund worked out, but expect that. And the only other thing that I would like to say is, rain can dampen, and we can't control the weather. Rain can dampen our sight, but it doesn't dampen our spirit. And so in the true essence of our forefathers, we'll have a great fireworks show in celebration of America's birthday. And so, unfortunately, we are where we are, but we are also very confident that this was the decision that needed to be made for everyone on site now, that's holding on site, and that's beginning to break down some of those staging areas. I also want to thank our sponsors. We can plan a great event, but the people who are paying for the event, Citgo, Bud Light, Walmart, Dr. Pepper, Southwest Airlines, those are our anchor sponsors, and so many more who make this event, who fund this event, so that we can have a great celebration. So to them, I just want to say one last time, and actually it won't be one last time, it'll be multiple times today, thank you, because without them, we couldn't do this great event. Unfortunately, 31 years now, this event has been going on, and we've had a lot of rain, right? You guys have been with us, reporting on the site when we've taken on a lot of rain. And this is, unfortunately, the only time we've had to cancel at least most of the show. Good news is that our spirits will start flying with those fireworks. And I would just want to have also tell everyone that be safe while you're at home. and don't let anything dampen your spirit for America's birthday.
Susan, can you talk us through the difficulty of
It was a tough one. Yes, sir. We were wringing our hands and watching, all of the forecasts, working with our emergency operations, our Homeland Security, fire department, police department. We don't take these decisions lightly. You know this. We are troopers. The show goes on. The show will always go on in our hearts. And we've always been able to pull it off. Unfortunately, the weather just did not cooperate. And so, it's it's gut-wrenching because there's been such a great effort going into this show, and it's one of our signature events. It's been around for a long time, for a couple of generations now, and so it's very hard, but I know we made the right decision, and at the end of the day, that's what we must always do, is get the right people around the table and make the right decision, and I'm confident that this was one. So I'm not deterred at all from where we are. It is what it is. This is not something that's normal for us, but it was hard. It was hard.
And to clarify, you will have the fireworks display, but you don't want people showing up on site.
No, we're not going to open the site up to the public. Everyone's very familiar with our bio out there, and that water's rising. Y'all have captured a lot of that on your news stations. And so right now we have just begun to pull things out of that bowl. And everything we've been operating from a very safe mode and a very right mode. And we've made the right decision.
Will there be police in place to keep people from coming to the site, or how do you plan to?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Of course, we have HPD. Of course, they sit with us around the table as we're planning this event every step of the way. And so we've been working with them this morning as well so that we will continue to have a secure site. And so we'd just ask everyone to, stay home, be safe, watch it on TV, and celebrate at home with your family.
Roads were already closed off the event, and they're going to stay closed? Is that correct?
They will. We will not open. We will not open Allen Parkway or Sabine. We will keep a locked site. Besides that, in anticipation of the rain, we were well in advance. We had everything set up, so it's going to take us a while to take it down too, right? So the roads will remain closed.
When you say the site has been compromised due to all that rain, can you talk about what you're seeing out there? Is the water just rising?
Same thing, yeah. Water rising, a saturated site. A lot of water fell, upstream from us. It's all over Houston. I know you know that. But we have these beautiful parks. We also want to maintain those parks, and so really from a site standpoint, when we pull out, we'll pull out very carefully. Will take a little longer than what we had anticipated, because we don't want to mess up those grounds. We want Eleanor Tinsley Park on Buffalo Bayou and Sam Houston Park to remain intact, and I think by making this decision, that also comes into play. We'll be able to better protect those parks. Anything else? Hey, listen, keep telling all of our patrons about it, because we want to make sure that everybody's safe. Thank you so much for coming. I'm sorry? Oh, Susan Christian.
So we've been listening to Susan Christian with the Mayor's Office of Special Events telling the official announcement that part of Freedom of Texas, for the first time in 31 years, will be canceled. No musical performances. The fireworks show still going on. However, no one will be allowed on site. The public cannot go to the site to watch those fireworks.
And if you look at the picture on the left side of your screen, you can see why a lot of those structures are flooded. And this is because Buffalo Bayou Park, as you know, runs concurrent with Buffalo Bayou, and that bayou has been rising all morning because of our rainfall rates have been so high. But Britta is standing by, and she does have a bit of good news. As it turns out, the rainfall rates are dropping just a bit.
They are dropping. So at the peak of all this, our rainfall rates were 3 to 4 inches of rain per hour. hour right over downtown. So we quickly stacked up rainfall totals at Houston TransStar on the west side. We had 7 inches of rain in 6 hours. So that's why the flash flooding occurred. Now, the park itself is actually set up to take on that flood water. So it's doing what it's supposed to do. It's supposed to fill up to keep the rainfall from causing flooding in other areas. But unfortunately, that of course is changing how we'll be celebrating tonight. We are tracking this upper level low slowly moving to the west. The good news is it is moving. It's not stalled out. It's just a slow mover. We still have the flash flood warning in effect for the northwest side and the southwest side until 2:30. That's going to stay in place. And then we have the flash flood watch in effect for everyone shaded in green. That would be Harris County, Fort Bend, Brazoria, Galveston, southern portions of Liberty County and Chambers County until 4 p.m. And it's not until we get after 4 that we're expecting to see some pretty big improvements across the area. So we still have several hours of rainfall to get through until we start to see some improvements across the area. Now we are going to continue to see that heavy rainfall. I'm just going to go ahead and just go over here because I want to show you how much rain we have seen since this all started, because it is pretty impressive. These are some of the rainfall totals just from what we have seen today, and some of them are approaching over 7 inches, but there's a big drop off between what we saw within the loop and what we saw closer to the Beltway. As I said, over 7 inches of rain for TransStar, Buffalo Bayou at Shepherd, almost 7 inches of rain, Willow Waterhole, over 5 inches of rain, Brays Bayou at 4.5 inches, Halls Bayou at Airline at about 4, and then White Oak Bayou at 3.5 inches. And again, a lot of this happened within a very short amount of time. And the heavy rainfall is still coming down. Some of the areas that we're watching pretty closely are in Harris County. That's where we're continuing to track the flash flood warning. Again, for the northwest side and the southwest side, that's up until 2:30 in the afternoon. Look at the rainfall rates, though. They have come down considerably. About 2 hours ago is when we did have those rainfall rates of 3 or 4 inches per hour. This is the last hour. Now we're down to 1 to 2 inches per hour, which is enough to create some street flooding. And since we already have significant street flooding, that's not going to add to the, that is going to allow the issues to stay where they're at. We really need to drop it farther to see some big improvements across the area. So we're expecting to see some of this rainfall to really push out of the area as we go into the later half of this evening. Everything is going to clear out from the east out to the west because that's the way this upper level low is moving. So Liberty County starting to see some improvements, as well as Chambers County. For the east side of Harris County, I would give it at least another 2 hours. If you live off to the west, closer from Katy out towards Sealy, you're looking at least 5 to 6 hours of rainfall to be continuing. But again, how fast the rain is coming down has really improved, and we're starting to see those rainfall rates to get closer to about 1 to 2 inches of rain per hour. So by the time we get to firework time, we are going to see some really nice improvements. We just have to get through the next several hours. It's important to note that all of our waterways are still within bank, so we're tracking significant street flooding and dangerous driving conditions within Harris County. Back to you.
Britta, thank you.
Okay, as Britta has mentioned, we're focusing our attention now kind of moving to the west a little bit as some of that rain is heading in that direction. So we want to check in with Mario Diaz, and he's live at the Southwest Freeway Feeder Road and Chimney Rock. Mario, you've been out there for a while. It looks like it's still flooded behind you.
Oh, absolutely. You have streets that are deluged right now. And take a look right here behind me. You can see this gentleman. This is not the way anybody should be spending their Independence Day. He got a friend to show up. He's tying up his truck, and he's hoping that he get pulled out of this and obviously find himself on better standing ground. This Lexus over here you can see behind me, it actually was down North Chimney Rock here a bit, contemplated as to whether or not he should proceed, and right there is the end result. One woman that I was speaking to had walked up from Westheimer down south here along Chimney Rock towards 5969 and said that this was the scene all the way up Chimney Rock, all the way down is what she's been dealing with. Let's take a walk over here and show you. We've had people here at this gas station where we've been reporting from throughout the course of this morning at this Shell who actually have been parked here for several hours. They just didn't want to get on these roads. Some people were local trying to get home. Oh, look at this guy right here just cutting right through the median. He's had enough. People didn't want to wait, and they've been waiting here for 20 minutes. And they just continue to just move on. We showed you earlier what the feeder road was like over here at 59 and 69. Some good news in this regard, that we're starting to see this area clear up. The water has receded, and now it's not as bad as what it was approximately, I'd say 30 minutes ago when we last reported live. The one vehicles we're seeing lots of course, out here, right here. Collision center vehicles, various tow trucks, flatbed trucks coming in, picking up some vehicles wherever they can and moving through these waters very quickly. They have been obviously spending their 4th of July quite busy trying to get those who have been caught up in these flood waters. I'm going to come over here and talk with this gentleman here very quickly. He's been here for about 2 hours. 2 hours now you've been here, right? You have a very low vehicle. This is your Corvette.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
You made the right decision.
Yes, sir. Definitely.
Did you think you'd be here this long?
No. I'm just waiting for the water to go down, and then, I'll take off from there.
Well, we are seeing it come down along this feeder road in particular about from 30 minutes ago.
Yes, sir. But definitely, I won't make it through there either way, so.
When you see other drivers out there try to go through it, you see behind you here that truck that got stalled out, what goes through your mind?
Just be patient, He's gonna go away anyway.
But not try to go through it?
No, definitely not.
Yeah, and there's no doubt this parking lot is starting to clear out a little bit from what it was about an hour ago. You had vehicles just stacked up like it was a valet lot near the stadium. People trying to get as many cars onto this lot as quickly as possible to evade the waters that are around you. Let's go back over here and show you what the traffic is like on 610 and 59. This is approaching, heading eastbound on 5969 to 610. We're not seeing as many red lights as we did in the past. JT, I'll follow you. Earlier we saw plenty of red lights backing up there as you're approaching the loop, but not as bad right now. And again, this area in particular where we're at Chimney Rock, heading westbound on the feeder road along 5969 has cleared up dramatically. There was a line of cars, I would say a good 24 that were backed up over here. They're no longer there, but they are along Chimney Rock Road, and they're all waiting to see when the waters along Chimney Rock are eventually going to begin to recede. But that's the very latest. Mario Diaz, KPRC, Channel 2 News.
All right, Mario, we want to get an update now. Britta just telling us about some possible bayou impacts on not only the roadways, but the structures. And first, starting with Hunting Bayou. This is the east side, I-10, the Beltway. The water is rising at Hunting Bayou, and it could soon begin to impact structures in that area.
Yeah, another update that she gave us was White Oak Bayou. I know some of you may be concerned about that. White Oak Bayou is also close to being able to impact I-10. You'll know that that's just off the I-10-45 interchange there. So both of those bayous, something to keep an eye on.
That's right. All right, our Joel Eisenbaum has been checking conditions in the Washington corridor for us. We know we had a tweet from Mayor Turner talking about impacts of flooding in that area and also some possible structure flooding in that area as well. And Joel is right there for us to tell us what's happening.
Yeah, here's what I can tell you right this second. Okay, so the spot where we are, I want to give you sort of our geographical location real quick. This was supposed to be the detour to avoid the Katy Freeway at Washington Westcott, the site of essentially where there was a high water rescue just about an hour or two ago. So a lot of people were using this detour, which is on the north side of the Katy Freeway. It's kind of like you come through the Timber Grove area a little bit, just off the Katy Freeway, come down Kansas, and then people wanted or were thinking that they could go down here. This is where Hempstead Road turns into Washington, and we're about a half mile north of the Katy Freeway. Oh, I can get around all that stuff. Not happening, because there is at least 6 feet of water at what is really a train overpassing, a train crossing right in this area. Saw a guy trying to actually negotiate this, a place that the city of Houston just blocked off about 20 minutes ago. He actually went, I'm telling you, this guy was going probably 30 miles an hour. He was thinking he was going to make it and just drive as fast as he could in what turns into at least 6 feet of water before you get to Washington and I-10. He got maybe 20 feet, realized his mistake, and jammed it into reverse, and thankfully, at least for him, he got out of there. So a bad idea. He blew through a barrier, and it could have been a lot worse for that guy. I want to tell you a little bit real quickly about our journey getting to just this point. And it was trying to originally get to the spot of Washington Westcott I-10, which as far as we could tell was blocked in nearly every direction as we headed from the station. We first tried to go from 59 onto the West Loop, and at that very spot, same thing we saw in Harvey. They're doing sort of the construction of the new flyover, and it was impassable in that spot. You could not get onto the West Loop, at least at the time we left the station. So we're like, all right, we're going to take 59, get off Kirby, kind of navigate our way up over Buffalo Bayou. That didn't happen either because the freeway feeder road at Kirby is completely underwater. We saw 2 cars that were swamped. Traveled a little further, tried to do it at Shepherd, virtually the same thing. And the cars were just stacked up on the highway. They couldn't exit because they were going into a pool of several feet of water. They didn't want to do that. And they didn't want to keep going inbound. So basically cars were parked on 59 in the area of Shepherd. That was about 45 minutes ago. Our next plan was to take the spur, kind of cutting across downtown. Downtown itself does not look bad, I might add, at least from my view as we headed in the live truck, and we wanted to cut over on Washington. Washington is fine until you get to the spot of about Durham. And then Washington appears to me to be underwater, at least the street. I can't say for the businesses and the bars and the restaurants that line that area, but it was impassable to us, at least in that spot. So we hung a right and went up Shepherd, thinking that we could kind of whittle our way back here to I-10 and Westcott, and it just was not happening. And I can tell you, you were talking about White Oak Bayou just a minute ago, and it was a roaring torrent. I couldn't believe how much water was in there, and you can see that John just hit the tether point on that camera. We're tethered to a truck here, so we can only go so far. I apologize. But White Oak Bayou, to me, I mean, I live in the area, and to see it look like that after a morning of rain, incredible rain at that. I mean, I heard what Britta's figures were, 7 inches in 6 hours, or some incredible number. I couldn't believe how much water is in White Oak Bayou flowing through right now under the Yale Street Bridge in the area of 11th Street. We saw that. I mean, there's a lot of water traveling through that bayou, and a lot of surface street flooding between here and there. Yale Street in the Heights, there are spots that don't look that great. Around 14th Street doesn't look that great, but I mean, there are spots you got to keep in mind, and I'm going to send it back to you in just a minute because I know I'm only limited in how much I can show you. By the way, you see all these folks, like this isn't a well-traveled street usually. This is Kansas Street. It kind of whittles its way back there just to the north of I-10 where those new homes, new construction homes, and I mean, it is a line of cars. These are all folks trying to figure out a way to get around the problem area of I-10. I-10 was shut down. From what I saw, there was 0 traffic going inbound in between Washington and at least it looked like Sawyer or Taylor or something like that. I saw no traffic going inbound. I don't know officially what the status of it is, but I saw no traffic. Going outbound, like towards Katy on the Katy Freeway, starting at about TC Jester, there were some cars stopped. There were some cars looking like they wanted to go forward and maybe try to negotiate some of the water, but you couldn't really get past the train overpass, which is basically the Washington exit because there's a lot of water. Water that is essentially spilling into that area from, if you know where the Denny's is, and there's a lot of water that's basically just funneling right into the highway from that spot right there. Every once in a while we see a guy who's maybe thinking, oh, can I do it? No, you can't do it. You got 2 choices. You can turn around or you can take Kansas. Pick it. He's figuring it out. But there is no way you can negotiate this spot. And that's about all we can show you from here. I apologize, we really have sort of a leash here in terms of how far in we can go. But that's a story from what is the beginning of Hempstead Highway, not too far from I-10 in Washington. I'm Joel Eisenbaum, KPRC Channel 2 News.
All right, Joel, a very thorough report. Nonetheless, we really appreciate your storytelling out there, setting the scene of how folks are handling out there.
Yeah, it's been an eventful morning. We're joined on the phone now by Harris County Flood Control District meteorologist Jeff Lindner. Jeff, once again, we've had a significant flooding event, so you are a busy guy. We appreciate your time. Can you give us an update on how some of our waterways are doing?
Jeff, can you hear us?
All right, we'll work to get Jeff back on the line. Some technical difficulties there. Jeff, can you hear us?
Yes, can y'all hear me?
We can hear you. Thank you.
Okay. So, yeah, the bayous that we're looking at right now are Greens Bayou on the north side of the city up around US 59. That's getting very high. We might actually see that come out of its banks and impact portions of the US 59 feeder roads around south of Intercontinental Airport. Also keeping a very close eye on lower Hunting Bayou on I-10 in the eastern part of the city. Water could be getting very close to getting in some of the subdivision streets over there on the north side of I-10 along Hunting Bayou. And then back to the west on White Oak Bayou, Brays Bayou, and Buffalo Bayou. These bayous have seen the majority of the rainfall, but they are within their banks. They are carrying the water. And right now, if we do not get any more significant amounts of rain, these bayous should be able to handle this. So we're not looking at structure flooding on those systems right now. Willow Waterhole, which is a tributary to Brays Bayou down in the West Bay area, that did get very high this morning, right up near bank full, but it has crested and it is starting to come down a little bit. So as long as we get into this kind of this break where we're getting these lower rainfall rates, these bayous will be able to start to catch up, and the street systems will be able to start to catch up and drain some of this water away. However, there is still a lot of water out there. There's a lot of impassable roadways, and we're certainly urging people to not travel at this time and let the water go down.
Jeff, you mentioned the situation with Hunting Bayou, obviously making folks who live in that area pretty nervous. What's your advice to them?
So right now, we're just asking people to keep an eye on the water levels. We've been using our inundation mapping feature on our flood warning system website to show where the water is, and we have yet to see any significant amounts of flooding in that area, but it is getting to those levels where in the past we have seen some flooding. And initially, this is going to be street flooding, may or may not get to the level of structure flooding in that area, so we just need people to be paying attention. Right now, the streets are already probably have too much water in that area to drive on, so you're probably going to be stuck in your house if you're in that area. And then also on Greens Bayou around US 59, keeping a close eye on that one, because if it rises another foot or two, that will start to impact the southbound feeder road of US 59 south of the bayou, and so we're keeping an eye on that. But for the most part, the bayous and creeks are doing well. We have not seen or heard of any significant amounts of structure flooding or any structure flooding. This has mainly been streets, big rises on the creeks and the bayous, but they appear right now to be handling this rainfall. And so I hope that gives some folks in some of these areas that are very nervous some amount of relief that it appears that the bayous will be able to handle this. We're going to have to continue to watch it very closely. But the good news right now, it looks like, especially Brays, White Oak, and Buffalo, that we will not see structure flooding from this.
That's definitely a good thing, Jeff. I know you're super active on social media. You got a lot of followers, people watching you, and you have been watching this weather event since before yesterday when it was predicted that it would rain today. I'm just wondering what your general impressions are. Obviously, this rainfall is a lot more impressive than perhaps was realized late last night or even yesterday afternoon. What's your take on what we've seen today?
Yeah, we started to get a little bit more nervous yesterday evening when some of the models started to show higher amounts of rain. You know, one of the biggest problems we face here is where are these isolated high totals going to happen? You hear it all the time. We're going to get widespread 2 to 3 inches of rain, and then somewhere is going to get isolated, 6 or 7 inches of rain. And unfortunately, today it has been right in the center of Harris County that had that isolated big amount of rainfall, 5 to almost 8 inches now on the west side of downtown. And so that's just one of these things with the forecasting that we really don't have any skill at predicting with a lot of lead time at all of where those isolated big totals are going to be. And unfortunately, when they happen in our area, we're going to get flooding like this. And so that's why it's important for people to always pay attention to the forecast. Even if we're talking about dealing with situations that maybe won't necessarily cause structure flooding, but a situation like today where you can get 5 to 8 inches of rain, it causes lots of street flooding, you can't move around, and we're certainly advising people to remain where they're at.
Mm-hmm. Definitely. I know that, part of your job in the flood control district, well, it's many parts of it, and you aren't the guy with all of the answers, but you definitely help us with many of them. I'm wondering if you're seeing some of the comments that we're seeing on social media today of people who are frustrated and saying, hey, what has changed since Harvey? Why do streets still continue to flood the way they do in Houston? Is anything being done about this? Are you seeing those comments, and what do you say to those folks who are really frustrated today?
Well, think one thing to remember is that our street systems are actually part of our drainage system here. And so our streets are actually designed to fill with water when we get these really intense rainfall rates like we saw this morning. And the streets are designed to flood, and that is to keep it out of the homes. So in most neighborhoods, you'll see the streets are cut down and the homes are higher than the street. And so that's exactly why we have it like that, because when we get these types of rainfalls like we saw this morning of 4, 5, 6 inches in a couple of hours, the underground pipes that carry this water to the bayou, they're only so big. They can only put so much water into those pipes. And so the streets have to act kind of as a secondary storage system to hold this rainfall water until it can be sent out into the bayou through the underground system. And so unfortunately, that's just a fact of what we have here is when we get these really intense rainfalls, we are going to have street flooding. And for the most part today so far that we've heard of, the systems performed very well with the underground system, with the street systems, and even the bayous. They've gotten high. We've had street flooding, but the hopefully, and we haven't heard of any structure flooding, and hopefully we don't have any. Then we've had a fairly successful rain type event where we kept it out of the homes and focused it into the street systems and the bayous, and that's how our drainage system is designed here to work.
Jeff, we know you're really busy, especially on a day like today. We thank you so much for taking some time out to talk to us.
All right, thank you.
All right, we want to go ahead and check in with Lee for Lacey. We've done our best to spread crews out over some of the areas, in particular in the metro area where some of this flooding is the worst. Last time we checked in with you, Lee, you were on 59, the Southwest Freeway, and then you were in Meyerland. Where are you now?
Right now, we're at 288 in Southmore. I'm going to flip the camera around and give you a look. We're looking at a sign that says freeway closed at Southmore, high water. So this area, people have been getting off the highway and traveling on the feeder road to get around this area with high water. And so we've just got here. We're looking at a police car on the other side, blocking traffic, blocking anyone from coming through here. We did get here by going 59 north, and I got to tell you what a difference a couple of hours makes. You heard Jeff Linder talking about how our streets are designed to be part of the floodway system and drainage system. We were seeing that those feeders that had been filled with water are now clear. So there was no longer that backup. I believe Joel was talking about that earlier. We saw it earlier along 59 where the cars were just waiting to get off the highway because the feeders were so filled with water. All of that appears to be clear now. We got onto 59 at the 610 interchange, heading towards 288, and exit after exit, we saw all of those backups had cleared out. The feeders looked good. We did not see stalled vehicles like we had seen before. So it looks like this area was draining. Now here at 288 in Southmore, another problem spot that we've come across, high water here. Not sure how long it's going to take for this area to drain out, but we're watching the cars get off the highway, go along the feeder to get around this section of road. We're going to continue to drive around and look into what's happening all around us, but for now we're going to send it back to you in the studio. Sian and Sarah.
All right, Lee, thank you. Reporting live from 3rd Ward there. A lot of construction at 288 in Southmore. I came in from work from there, and it was fine at about 9:20, but then 20 minutes later, Kathy Hernandez was there. Feeders shut down. It's amazing how many things can change in such a amount of time.
I know, and we're used to seeing the freeways behave this way when we get this much rain. You heard Jeff Linder talking about that streets are technically designed to flood here. Of course, it's a great thing that there's no water in homes that we've heard of as of yet. We are going to continue to check on that, but we don't want to see anybody lose their cars or anything like that. So it's been a difficult morning.
Justin Stapleton has made his way into work for us, and we are glad to see you. We know that it was a bit of a treacherous time getting here for you.
It was pretty wild, ladies. So similar to we saw where Mario Diaz was over on Chimney Rock. I tried to get down there, clearly didn't work. I've got a lower vehicle. It's inaccurate. It's maybe that far off the ground. So that's not going to happen at that point. A couple of things to note so far. So it took me getting into work today just over about an hour and 15 minutes. I live over on the east side of downtown. 59's okay up top. When you get to Fannin, that's where the backup started before the spur where Lee was earlier, and that's where things really started to fall apart. Still got lots of high water spots around town, so certainly, can't hammer this home enough. If you do not have to be anywhere over the next, let's say, 3 hours here, if you don't have a party to go to until 4 or 5 o'clock, just don't at this point. Let the roads kind of drain, as Jeff has been talking about. A couple of trouble spots out there as well. Now, here's the interesting thing. I'm going to show you a couple of new gauges that we just got in. Canberra Marshall just put these together for us. This is White Oak at I-10, one of the spots that's as you go between the heights up near Washington. That's where Joel is, where they've been shutting down I-10. So right now we are still rising. This is the latest. It is about, looks like it's about 3 feet or just less than 3 feet above the top of the bank. So it is still in White Oak Bayou, but notice the rise here. Obviously within the last 3 hours, we've had a rise of almost 26 feet at this point. So these, bayous are doing what they're designed to do. There's just a ton of water out there, and so that's all headed in this direction. So let's talk about Greens at 59. That was another one that he mentioned as well. That one also getting close to the top of the bank. And in fact, I was just monitoring on the chat here. They were talking about that at 55 feet, that's the flood stage, and right now it looks like 59, Greens Bayou at 59, there is forecast a crest at right about where it's at now, at about 53.5 to about 54 feet. So we're going to be about a foot below where we would start to run in some trouble, meaning that it would get to the top of the bank. So hopefully if that's the case, we should be okay. So let's do a quick reset and give you an idea. If you're just joining us here, if maybe you got home or if you've been out and about, I can tell you the roads are extremely messy. We've got a couple of flash flood warnings. You notice that does include much of the inner loop. So let's jump in a little tighter on that and get you an idea. So the green boxes include Harris County moving down towards Fort Bend County, southward towards Brazoria County, and then sections of Galveston County. Those are flash flood watches until 4 o'clock. And then the two right in the center here that we have highlighted, those are flash flood warnings, and clearly that's where we're seeing some of the heaviest amounts of rain that has fallen, and where we've also seen some of the high water spots where our reporters have been out in the field. So we've got both of those that go till 2:30. It is 1:30 right now. So for the next hour, we're anticipating anywhere across the inner loop. That includes the north loop, west loop, of course, as we've said, the Galleria area, going out towards West Park, A-Leaf all the way up 290 towards Jersey Village as well, and especially there as you go between there, Louetta towards 249. That is all under that flash flood warning. Now, I'm going to show what it looks like in terms of the radar so we can get an idea of where this is all going. As Britt has been mentioning for the last couple of hours here, we are seeing some decreases, I should say. And in fact, you can see as you get over towards Liberty County, almost completely in the clear at this point. We've got one little batch moving right through the center of the county right now, but we are seeing some vast improvements. That is going to continue very quickly as you get over across portions of Chambers County. That includes Anahuac, Mont Belvieu, for example. That'll push its way in towards Channelview. If you're watching us from there, either there or Crosby, you will see the rain starting to end here within the next, I'd say, 10, 15 minutes. Now, where we are seeing things pick up, over on the west side, and that's where we're going to run into some problems as we head in towards the rest of this afternoon. So that includes areas like Katy, greater Katy area, Fulshire, Brookshire, for example, Eagle Lake. All of Fort Bend County has all of this rain to push on through. You can see some of the heaviest amounts right now moving towards Rosenberg and Pleak, just north of Needville, and of course Sugar Land and Tompkins, Sierra Plantation. Those are all areas that we're going to watch very carefully as these rainfall rates continue to fall. Now, let's talk about how much rain is falling with that, because the rainfall rate is very important. That has been something we've been determining, that where we've seen a lot of the heaviest rain fall and some of the highest spots where we've had trouble with high water is where we've seen those heaviest rainfall rates. So we've got two spots that we're watching right now, and I've got it on an hour loop. So over the last hour, you can see anywhere from right outside of Jersey Village as you go up 290. I'm going to jump it a little tighter on that there so we can really get an idea of what we're talking about. So there's Cypress and Hockley. So all of this area between 290 and 6, and there's 99 the Grand Parkway. All of that is all falling about 1 to 2 inches per hour at this point. So that's enough to get some street flooding once again, as that will continue to fall. Meanwhile, we're seeing improvements as you get across much of the inner loop. All of the rainfall rates there have decreased to the amount of about 1/2 inch or less. So that should, over the next couple of hours here, help decrease the amount of street flooding that we've seen in some of the spots, of course, where all of the reporters have been positioned for the last couple of hours here. Now, other spots that we're going to watch very carefully, that'll include down towards Missouri City, Sugar Land in particular, and all of those areas right in that box, right in the center there where you're seeing some of the lightest green colors, or that sort of a lime green color. That's again 1 to 2 inches per hour. This is just estimated rainfall. That's not exactly how much is falling, but it gives us an idea of what it is that we're looking at. So that is going to be the spots where we'll continue to watch over the next couple of hours here. And we've also been monitoring the chat just to get an idea from the National Weather Service and, of course, Harris County Office of Emergency Management and Harris County Flood Control to get ideas about if they are watching any new spots that pop up, something that we'll certainly keep a track on as well. So, a quick reset, if you are watching us over across, let's say, down to Galveston, I know there's a lot going on down there this evening. There's this secondary batch, this little wave right here, looks like it's trying to curl its way back in towards the shore here. So I would say we'll keep a watch on that heavy amount just offshore over the next 1 to 2 hours. We're seeing vast improvements, though, certainly over across Liberty and Chambers County. That includes up on the north side near Conroe, the Woodlands as well. But anywhere across the inner loop, and of course you've been seeing our reporters out there, and as we've been saying the last few hours, if you do not have to get out on the roads, please do your best to stay home. I've had a couple of folks that have asked questions, hey, can I get from here to there in the next hour? Again, if you don't, just don't at this point, because I'm not expecting much of this to change within the next hour. Now, the next 3 to 4 hours, we should. In fact, I want to show you the futurecast here. As Britta was mentioning this morning, they've been struggling a bit initializing well. So notice it does not initialize well, although it is starting to pick up a little more on some of the activity that's happening out on the west side. The problem with this is that they don't initialize well. They have a little trouble moving out. But the overall snapshot in the picture is still the same, that as we get in through the afternoon by about 4 or 5 o'clock, that should be pushing its way out towards Schulenburg. That'll be working over towards New Braunfels, San Antonio, Austin, out into central Texas, and a bit of a break. Now, there's that batch that was sitting south of Galveston. We'll have to keep a watch on as well as we go into the latter half of this afternoon. That may be where some more difficulty starts to move in as we get heavier waves of rain again. Now, if we get a bit of a break, let's say a couple-hour break before next wave slides in, we should be okay. That'll give the roads and the streets time to drain so that if we do take on some additional rainfall, maybe an additional 1 to 2 inches, may not have the same impact, obviously, as what we've been seeing through the rest of the forecast here. So that's the overall snapshot. Here's what it looks like on the exact track. We're still expecting the bulk of what we're seeing out there now towards Austin, Waller County, down to Fort Bend County as you get towards Colorado County, Calhoun County. That's all going to push its way westward. But this is an upper level low. As Britta mentioned before, these are slow movers. There's nothing attached to it. It's not attached to jet stream or anything like that. So it is going to slowly meander its way westward over the next 4 to 5 hours. So, you know, goes to say, ladies, best advice here is that if you do not have to get out, certainly do not. We will continue to monitor not only what we're seeing through the rest of this afternoon, but I do think that as we get to about 5, 6, 7, 8 o'clock, we're going to be looking at a much better looking forecast and certainly a much drier looking forecast as well. But my guess is that some of the areas that were hardest hit as you get up towards Washington Ave right on the Katy there, it does drain fairly quickly, but there's going to be a lot of mess. I can tell you coming in today, I had to reroute about 7, 8 different times. I saw at least half a dozen flooded out cars and probably a few more that were well on their way as they were tempting fate trying to go through areas that they just shouldn't go through.
Hate to see that, don't you? Especially because some of these people may have had their vehicles flooded before. Yeah. So, you know, difficult morning, and I'm hoping that we're turning a corner, and it sounds like we are.
We are going to hear from Mayor Sylvester Turner coming up at about 2 o'clock. When those remarks begin, we will be sure to bring them to you live. One of the things he will be addressing, obviously, the major change that has been forced due to this weather at Freedom Over Texas tonight. Our Ryan Korsgaard live at Eleanor Tinsley Park to bring us up to speed for folks who may just be tuning in, Ryan, about what's happening tonight and what is not happening.
Number one, we've learned that the fireworks will go on tonight at 9:35 p.m., but keep in mind you won't be able to come down here and watch them. They've closed off this entire area along the bayou. The musical performances, those are all canceled. Let me take you down here to the Buffalo Bayou and how it has grown really into the park here at Eleanor Tinsley. You can see down there the water has crept up into that tent, and that is only the beginning. As we move a little bit to the left here, you can see that bar is underwater. We've seen bars about 4 feet underwater. Keep in mind, when we arrived here about 2 hours ago, taking over for Jake Reiner, who's been reporting here throughout the morning, this was still somewhat high and dry, at least as far as the bayou went. It has come up, and you can see one of those giant fences. That fence was probably a good 5 to 6 feet tall. It is more than halfway up that fence, so that gives you an idea of how the bayou really has swollen here near the Sabine Bridge. As we move a little bit to the left, you can see the floating picnic tables here near the Bud Light Pavilion. It is submerged. Over here, you can see there's a framework here to the left. That framework was to hold one of those giant screens so the people who weren't right up there on the stage could see the performances. They had a hard time getting out of here. A lot of workers came in, took that apart, put it in a giant truck, moved it out. That truck had to go through several feet of water down closer to the bayou simply to get out. That would be impassable at this point. And then they are, of course, trying right now to get a lot of this heavy equipment with the stage over here taken down. So again, all the musical performances that were planned here for tonight, those were all off. But the good news is, and the mayor will talk about this more at 2 o'clock, we're told the fireworks are fine. They will be able to set those off at 9:35. But the one thing you might want to start thinking about now is where you want to watch them from, because this area is closed, and they said just a short time ago that Allen Parkway will remain closed as they're working right now frantically to get all this equipment out of here. The thing is, as the rain has let up here in this area, that is good, but you also have to keep in mind, as Jeff Linder has been reporting as well, the water continues to rise as all that water makes its way down the Buffalo Bayou into the Port of Houston in that area. So the water's still coming up here in this area, certainly as the rain goes down, but it is quite an effort to get all this equipment moved out of here at this point, because keep in mind, they have had days, if not more than a week now, to put all of this up, and now they're trying to take it down in really just a matter of hours, and it's difficult because some of their main thoroughfares, as they were working to disassemble the equipment, are now underwater. So we will certainly hear more from the mayor coming up at 2 o'clock. One thing we do need to point out, if you had already purchased tickets for this, the city said give them a little bit of time, but they will be refunding those tickets at the face value of what you paid for it. So you'll be getting your money back. The bad news is there are so many vendors here in our area who were coming out to service this event, plan to make money off of it, and sadly won't. Because of course it's canceled, but the mayor saying the number one thing was safety. They erred on the side of caution, and given what we have seen out here this afternoon, probably a good idea. Guys, back to you.
The spokeswoman for the mayor's office of special events, we should note, said it may take a couple of weeks to get those refunds, so they're working on that.
But safety first, everyone stay home and enjoy your families.
Yes.
All right, we want to get now to Harris County Precinct 4 Constable Mark Herman. Constable, thanks for joining us again. We talked to you earlier. You were updating the list of high water areas that you were concerned about. And right now you're really focused on some flooding at Cypresswood Drive.
Yeah, we have a lot of the flooded roadways in our East District, which is the Humble area, Alding, Westville area. Those areas are subsiding. As the rain system pushes toward the west, we've moved a lot of our emergency equipment and personnel out that way toward the Lakewood, west of Tomball, Jersey Village, and Fairfield area. They're getting some pretty good rain right now.
Have you heard of any reports of water getting into structures, into homes there yet?
We have not. We have 0 reports on water and structures. We've had 0 rescues out here. For the most part, a lot of the people out here are kind of staying inside, which is what we want, and but no reports as such.
Yeah, that's a huge relief. We love to hear that. Have you seen any flooded out or stranded cars in your precinct?
There are a few vehicles that were flooded in some of the areas with they didn't have anyone in them, but they had got out, and we're waiting for wreckers to get them out of the water. We really want to push the message out. Do not drive in these waters. A lot of these folks don't realize, how much water it takes to flood out a vehicle. And we're also trying to encourage folks to, continue to listen to our county judge, Ed Emmett. He and his group down at OEM, they do an excellent job, monitoring these systems and, getting us through these situations.
Constable, I know you guys just got some new equipment recently, some new boats. It looks like you won't have to use them, we're hoping today, but it's good to know that you're ready. It feels good to be prepared.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, we've got our 5 tons, our boats, and we hope we don't need them, but we've got them. And again, the folks out here in Precinct 4 are in good hands.
I know your guess is as good as anybody else's, but Constable, you've been through this before in your precinct, sadly, more times than we care to mention. If you had to guess when we may start to see some of the roads eventually passable again, in particular Cypress Wood, well, what's your best guess?
Yeah, the ones in our, we cover 522 square miles up in North Harris County. The roadways in the Humble, Alding, Westville, and I-45 areas, the water has subsided. There's a couple of places on Cypress Wood Drive. Of course, Cypress Wood goes all the way across, to almost to 290. And there are some, in the West District of our precinct, there are still roads flooded, and there will be until the system passes and it gives the water opportunity to drain.
All right, Constable Mark Herman of Precinct 4, thank you so much for the updates. Hope you and all your crews stay safe out there today.
All right, thank you.
All right, we know it is a holiday. Happy 4th of July to you if you are joining us. Yeah, it's been an interesting 4th of July, that is for sure. And one of the parts that we've been paying attention to here during this rain event has been the roadways. And Eric Braid is standing by now with a couple of TransStar pictures and an update for us on traffic. Eric, it looks like we're seeing more green on that map.
Which is a good thing, because the yellows, the oranges, the reds are not our friend. That's where the heavier rain is, and it's pushing off toward the Katy area, Jersey Village, the Cypress area. The west side of town is starting to see lighter rainfall. So a lot of the side streets, as Jeff Linder mentioned, they're basically catch basins for excessive rainfall until they can make it to the bayous. And so the street flooding is still a problem, but it will be improving as long as we see the green colors over this area and eventually see the colors go away entirely. A couple of the areas that we're watching very closely, I-10, the Katy Freeway, just inside the 610 loop. We've got that road closed entirely. Also, 288 is a big problem as far as standing water over the freeway. Many areas around town, we've got issues on exit ramps. Some lanes are blocked by high water. Some frontage roads are blocked by high water. But as far as main lanes go, this is the Katy Freeway. This is the West Loop camera, but this is looking just to the north side of Memorial Park. And you can see water covering the roads, eastbound and westbound. This road is closed entirely as long as this is underwater. This is a railroad line that goes over a bridge over I-10, and it's that low spot that's cut off, basically. So this is what we're looking at as far as a backup goes on the Katy Freeway. This is our Washington camera. Again, this is right on the northeast side of Memorial Park. It is an absolute parking lot. These trucks have not moved an inch in a very long time. And it's not going to be until that water goes away before these guys can get going. So avoid the Katy Freeway inside the 610 loop. It is not going to get you anywhere. This is at Hogan. In the background, you can barely see it here. This is White Oak Bayou. We're looking at I-10, the Katy Freeway, right near downtown, just to the west of Interstate 45. We've been talking about White Oak Bayou getting very, very close to the main lanes of I-10. Right now, you can see traffic is getting by, so the water from White Oak Bayou is not covering I-10 at this point, and as long as we see the rain continuing to go away, we should be in decent shape. But I-10 is passable here near downtown, but these folks heading westbound are going to run into a huge problem because of that last TransStar camera I showed you, where right near Memorial Park, the freeway is closed. All right, let's take a look at 288, show you what's going on here. This is 288 at Holcomb. We've got water covering the road, so there are no cars getting up and down 288. It too is closed off. So if you're planning on getting out on the road anytime soon, say if you're in the Pearland area and you want to come into downtown, it's not going to happen on 288. Just avoid this freeway. This is right around the medical center area between the Med Center and downtown. It is impassable. You are not going to be able to get through here. We're going to take a look at another camera here. This is 288 at Southmore. This is the southbound lane here. Notice the people are getting off at this exit here at Southmore. Police are blocking this because of the water over the road that I just showed you. A little bit of a better picture. This is the Southwest Freeway. As I was coming into work, this section, the section that's actually below ground level, we call it the canyon as it goes through the Montrose area between Montrose and the Museum District and West University. That was completely closed off. Traffic was basically sitting as a parking lot. It is now passable. So Southwest Freeway is looking at improved conditions here. If you're traveling southbound or northbound through town, you should be in decent shape. Also on the Southwest Freeway, the 610 loop getting pushing onto 59 westbound down toward Sugarland, was causing some problems. And I apologize for this camera shot. The folks at Transtar are trying to kind of reposition it here. But we had the entrance ramp onto 6959 southbound from the 610 loop. That was covered with water, but I think that has also opened up, so people are getting by on that. So that's a look at the roadways at this point in time. Some of the major problem areas: avoid the Katy Freeway inside the 610 loop between downtown and the 610 loop. It is closed off entirely. Also, 288 just south of downtown between the 610 loop and downtown is closed off due to high water. We'll keep looking for areas of concern and show them to you as they come up. Right now, though, back to you guys.
We've been getting updates from local law enforcement about how the situation is unfolding in their area, and Bel Air police just gave an update over Twitter saying that Bel Air roads are in fact gradually becoming passable as water drains off. Still, they say reconsider any need to drive today and drive carefully if heading out.
Yeah, definitely some good news there. We like hearing that. Photojournalist Bobby Wiggins is inside the loop between 610 and 290. This is a live look at the scene right there. It looks like the larger trucks, everybody getting through there, but there's still water on the roadway. So even if it is passable, it's an important reminder that you're going to have to take it slow no matter where you're going. So if you're heading out of town, especially taking 290, as a lot of people tend to do on the holidays, something to take note of.
And we've also got a camera set up at the Southwest Freeway feeder road at Chimney Rock. And you see folks very carefully making their way through that area. I want to take you over to Houston Transtar now, where reporter Roseanne Aragon is live with Harris County Judge Ed Emmett for the very latest update on the situation. Roseanne?
That's right. Originally, he was saying there was a skeletal staff here. Well, since then, there have been many people who are trickling in. County Judge Ed Emmett is with me. Judge, thank you so much for your time on this really busy day. Can you tell us a little bit about what's happening here?
Well, we've activated our emergency operations center. We've gone from level 4 to level 3. So the staff is beginning to come in. Just because we're concerned that this storm isn't moving out. Hopefully it will. Hopefully by this evening we'll be able to go back to normal. But in the meantime, people need to stay off the roads because there are certain areas that are impassable. We don't think there's going to be any structural flooding. So far that's the case, but we have to monitor it.
Can you tell me what is your take on what's happened so far and sort of where we're going and what you're seeing? You said you're not sure if the rain event is going to be leaving as expected.
Well, sure. We've been talking to Jeff Lindner, the meteorologist, and all of our staff, and this thing is moving a lot slower than was anticipated, but it is still drifting to the west, and as long as it continues to do that, then it'll be out of our area in a few hours. But we always have to prepare for the worst, and in this case it would be if it stalled or if it backtracked at all. And the rains that are now going to fall on the west side of the county, on the upper reaches of Cypress Creek and out around Katy, that water's all got to come back through and on those watersheds, and so we have to monitor that very closely.
And now it took everyone, including us, a while to get here. Can you talk to me about what are some of the toughest, the hardest hit areas if people are watching at home, if people have to go out? You know, what do you know?
Well, I had to take 4 different routes just to get here myself. I mean, Interstate 10 at the Washington Avenue is underwater. Washington Avenue itself was underwater, couldn't get through 11th. And then on the east side of town, I understand around Greens Bayou, 59 area, Hunting Bayou, those are all problematic. I won't say they're completely underwater, but they're problematic.
Do you know of any rescues that have been happening?
A handful of rescues. The good news is it's the middle of the day. Like I was talking about, I'd take a route and then find out I'd have to turn around. At night, that's a much more terrifying circumstance, and that's when we really run into problems. At least in the daytime, people can see that the water's there and they know to turn around. We did have one incident, though, where somebody drove around barrels and around an officer and still drove into the high water, and that's just it's almost unbelievable.
You know, tell me about what is your message to those who are sitting at home and may be frustrated that they're seeing something similar like this again after Harvey?
The immediate message is stay where you are. It's a holiday. You don't need to be going out, and just let this pass. This is not Harvey. This isn't Tax Day. This isn't Memorial Day. It's 4th of July, but it's another holiday. But it's not as bad an event as any of those 3. But long term, we have to recognize that major improvements need to be made in our flood control system. And that's what we're about. I've been asked repeatedly, are we better off now than we were before Harvey? And the answer is, in some places, there's been some minimal improvements made, but until we can go in and make the major investment in flood control, then we're going to continue facing this. And that's what, you know, I don't mean to politicize it, but that's what the bond issue is all about on August 25th, so we can start doing that kind of work.
You know, last question, we heard Jeff Linder talking about how our city is designed so that when it does rain, that the streets sort of take the flooding. Is this a successful flood event?
Well, in a degree, yes, and that's true for the city of Houston. But the city, you know, is less than half of the county. We have people who live along Cypress Creek. I literally walked in the rain in the Kingwood 4th of July parade this morning, and people in Kingwood, that's part of the city, but it was designed differently. People in unincorporated areas, they don't have those street designs. So that's why we need to really pay attention and do it right. We need to put in flood control measures that make sense for each area.
Where can people give their input if they wanted to, you know, contribute to that discussion?
Well, we're having public engagement meetings in all 23 of the major watersheds, and I and the Flood Control District and the commissioners are all willing to go speak to any group anytime about it. This is one more reminder. It's the most important issue we're facing as a community. It's going to be flood control and our resilience going forward.
Well, thank you so much for taking time for us. We are here at TransStar. I'm here with County Judge Ed Emmett, who gave us some information about what's going on. We will have the updates as we get it. Reporting live, Roseanne Aragon, KPRC, Channel 2 News. Back to you guys.
Ro, thank you. We are getting close to the expiration of that flash flood warning. It was extended from noon to 2:30, and we want to check in now with meteorologist Justin Stapleton to tell us, do you expect that to be extended? What are we looking at here?
Well, you know, good question. I guess if the rain continues to end across the metro area and we can get the roads to drain down, they will probably let that expire. We do have a couple of new ones out there, a few things I want to get to, so let's get to those right away. This is our brand new flash flood warning. That is for the area just south of Belleville. That goes till 3:45. That's one of the spots that has an aerial flood advisory on top of it. That's what that black box is ahead of that, over top of it. But that's where they've also been seeing the heaviest rainfall amounts, anywhere from about 1 to 2 inches per hour. And so that's why the flash flood warning is there. Now, just want to also let you know there is a flood warning that has come out till let's see, till 5:48 tomorrow morning. So basically through tonight into tomorrow morning. That's for Greens Bayou at Lay Road, which is up on 59. And that is one of the trouble spots. I was just talking with Canberra Marshall about this a second ago. He said that's one of the trouble spots we were having earlier today. So that's right across 59 and Greens Bayou up there. That's where we've got a new flood warning just came out from the National Weather Service. A couple of other things to update you on as well. This is from Jeff Linder, that Braze is cresting in Meyerland within its banks. Great news there as well. Just about a foot or so to go, but it does look like that is cresting. Also, let's see, southbound feeder lanes on 59 at Greens Bayou up at Lay Road. That's the one they're talking about right there. So northbound line seems to be okay. It's the southbound side of that feeder road, which has the flood warning on it. So let's do a reset here, show you what we've got as we head through the rest of our afternoon and give you an idea. So I'm going to step out of the way so you can kind of see the exact track radar, and we'll show you what's happening. So good news, improvements for folks that are over on the east side of viewing area. That includes Liberty County as you get down to Chambers County, even in towards Galveston, where it's still a fairly steady rain, but we don't have any flood warnings down there so far. Now, there's this big batch just south of there that's really starting to flare up. In fact, we've seen a couple of lightning strikes with that. We'll keep a watch on that as that slowly will work its way inland towards the coastline, probably within the next hour. So you're not out of the woods just yet. Improvements, though, up towards Liberty County as you get towards San Jacinto, Polk County. That's the good news. Of course, we've been talking about that as you get in towards this morning. This hasn't been much of an issue for much of the north side. So everyone north of Conroe, as you get up towards, you know, the Huntsville area, Livingston, really hasn't seen that much more than an inch of rain or so. But now we're starting to see things get a lot worse as you get out towards the west side. So that includes Katy. That includes Fort Bend County down towards Rosenberg. You can see the Sealy area right there, where they're seeing the flash flood warning. That is also going to be a big concern. So let me show you something. This is the Doppler estimated rainfall. So that shows an estimate of how much rain is falling within the last hour. And that is obviously where our trouble spots are, as you might expect. Sealy, As I jump in a little tighter on that there, you can see I'm going to put the stop on this here so you get to the very end. Right in the center there, that's where we were looking at a potential, and again, this is an estimate, but it's a potential where we could see upwards of 3 to 4 inches in 1 hour, and clearly that's enough that that could cause some flooding across the roadway. So anywhere on I-10 through 36, that state route right there, so jumping tighter on that. So there's Peters as you get towards Sealy, San Felipe as well. Thankfully a little more rural as you get out that way, but still folks that are in that area are going to be impacted over the next 2 hours as this rain continues to move through. The other bullseye that we're watching has been just north of Jersey Village, right around the Waller area as you get towards Hockley and Cypress. That's what Eric was talking about when he showed some of the roads out on 290 there. So 290 where it meets up with 6, very messy conditions. I'm going to go back to that and show you what it looks like. This is where we're seeing one of our flash flood warnings as well. That goes until 2:30, so about the next half hour for not only that, but in across downtown as well. So both of these are going to be our main impacts as we continue to see the system moving west. All of the areas from Prairie View, Brenham, down towards Eagle Lake, Fulshire, Katy, Rosenberg, Sugarland, all of those spots. Fort Bend County moving on down towards Wharton. That's going to be your big impact from now till probably 3, 4 o'clock as that works its way through. Quick update here on Greens. This is brand new information, as we said, that just came in. That's the spot that they've just put a flood warning on Greens Bayou at Lay Road. So that's Highway 59 as you go up the East Tex there. So just below the top of the bank, they do expect that to make a mess of the southbound feeder lane. That's where the impact is there as well. A couple of other things here from the flood control folks said that the water levels in lower Huntington Bayou resulting in some street flooding in the subdivisions upstream, so basically north of I-10, may get close to the homes, but it appears the channel is near crest. That's also good news as well. So we've got Brays Bayou that is cresting right now near the Meyerland area. It is within its banks. Certainly good news. And then, of course, Huntington Bayou, where we're talking about areas north of I-10 there, that the water levels are getting close to the homes, but it does look like that also is going to remain in its banks. So let's talk about White Oak, one of the other spots that we were watching where things got very messy. So Eric had the TransStar camera there from the downtown shot. You could see just how close the water was to the top of the bank there as well. It looks like it's just about 2 feet under. We'll continue to monitor that. I want to show you a live look from right here at Channel 2. This is what it looks like. So there is traffic flowing on the Southwest Freeway, both northbound and southbound sections. Earlier today, we were talking about the mess up near 59 and 610. You saw Mario Diaz was at Chimney Rock, which is just south of where that intersection is. That feeder road was completely flooded out as well. So we're seeing some improvement, but goes without saying. Judge Emmett mentioned this holiday. If you don't have to be out this afternoon, please do not, as we are going to continue to see pretty sloppy conditions, even if the roads start to improve. I know a lot of folks are going to get antsy because you didn't get out early to try to get out to the grocery store or whatever it is. If you can hold off for a couple of hours, please do so. Notice that we're getting a vast improvement up towards Livingston and Liberty County, looking much, much better, but still in across the downtown area. Over on the east side, we're finally starting to see the rain lessen up as well. And of course, it's the idea of those colors. The darker the color is in towards those reds and oranges and yellows, that's where the heavier rain is. As you get some of the lighter colors, the green there, especially the lighter green towards Mont Belvieu, that's an improvement. That'll work its way over the next, I'd say, 30 minutes to about an hour through much of the East Loop into downtown as well. So improvements coming slowly this afternoon. That's the good news, but there is still a lot to get through. We've still got flash flood warnings. That includes downtown till 2:30 for at least the next half hour. Do not have any information if they're going to extend that. I know, Cian, you had mentioned that a second ago or asked that question. Don't have any word on that if they will or not. My guess is that if the rain starts to subside like it is, look like it's doing over on the east side there, they may let that expire at 2:30, but goes without saying this is not the time to get out on the roads. As you know, the next few hours are still going to be pretty messy. And to the south there, this is what we're seeing, this next wave. You can see this line of showers, and there's a couple thunderstorms embedded in this as well, some heavier rain with the brighter colors. That's all going to be pushing its way towards Jamaica Beach, down to the southwest end of the island and in towards southern Brazoria County, the coastline there as well. So folks up around Lake Jackson, Sweeney area, you need to make sure that you are certainly paying very close attention over the next few hours. So if you're in Fort Bend County watching us right now and you're trying to get out and about, or if you're thinking about it over the next 30 minutes to probably hour, 2 hours, same thing for y'all out in Katy, I would just sit tight right now. This is not the time to get out until we start to see some vast improvement on the roads here. But as we mentioned, two different things. One, let's do a quick recap of what we're seeing in terms of temperatures. It's much cooler out there. Just about everybody right now sitting in the 70s. And as we get in towards this evening, our fireworks forecast looks pretty good as well. It is going to be sloppy, and as we mentioned, not something that the city wants anyone to be out and about near Freedom Over Texas. They've canceled most of that with the exception of the fireworks. You know, if you get a chance to watch them or if you want to do them in your neighborhood, do so, do it safely, but certainly make sure that you are as careful as you can with that. So we're going to see the temperatures could potentially get back up into the upper 70s, but it's going to be a very cool, kind of raw, soggy day out there, and we should be looking at fairly damp conditions as well. So we've still got our flash flood warnings out for downtown. That includes most of the inner loop. We've got our secondary one that is just north of that, moving up towards 290 Jersey Village, and a third one which is out on the west side towards Sealy, all across I-10. I-10 going to be impacted along with the Grand Parkway, 290, 8, and of course Highway 6 will all be likely very impacted by this. Of course, when 6 goes under where the West Park is, I believe, really jumps under. We had the big problems with that, the last couple of big flood events, of course, with Harvey. My guess is they're probably going to run into some troubles with that as well. So we'll continue to monitor things here in the Weather Center. We are seeing some improvement on the east side. Thankfully, guys, that's good news. I always want to give it like a glass half full here because we've been dealing with this for a good chunk of the morning so far. But we'll do our best to not only get this through, but also let you know if we have any new information on any of the bayous, if we have new information on any new flood warnings that come out, I'll get your attention. You can pop back over to me, and we'll get that to you as quickly as we can.
Okay, yeah. Justin, thank you.
One of the big headlines, we just want to keep reminding you of this, is that most of Freedom Over Texas has been canceled. They are still doing the fireworks, but if you want to watch them, they're not going to allow you on the grounds there. So that may alter your plans a little bit. You can see them from other places around the city, but you're not going to be able to go there and show up and be allowed through the barricades.
They say it's just not a good condition out there for folks to be out and stay.
Yeah, that ground's going to be pretty wet out there. As it is near 59 and Chimney Rock, Mario Diaz is out there right now, and he's been out there all morning. And Mario, we're hoping that some of the water is going down. Are you seeing that?
Yeah, there's no doubt we're seeing these water levels go down dramatically from when we first arrived here about 2.5 hours ago. The risk not as great, but still for some, the risk of going through this water is still very calculated. As you can see on the northbound side of Chimney Rock, you have some cars that are parked there trying to wait it out. But heading southbound, we've been seeing a steady trail of vehicles, as you see right now, just going through this one specific area of floodwaters. It's interesting, this Lexus has had about 4 tow truck drivers and flatbed transformers come up to them and say, hey, you want us to move you out of there? And they have denied any kind of service. You can see right now, there it goes. It's off, and it's leaving that Lexus there. They just don't want to be moved right now. I talked to one tow truck driver here earlier, and I asked him, it is the 4th of July, but for you guys, it's big business today. Does it feel like Christmas? His response, not really. Today's a nightmare for us. Working in these kind of elements, having to get vehicles out of these waters because people just did not want to be patient